Chapter 061, A Profitable Investment. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility that shocked him greatly. Wanbao Pavilion had previously purchased elixirs in Dan Valley, so it had some experience there. Such a fast way of refining pills like Lin Yi. Unless mastered the spiritual fire. Thinking of this, Wanbaoxing's breathing became rapid. How precious is the spiritual fire! If you want to master the spiritual fire, you need great opportunity or strong financial resources. The former needs to be found by oneself, while the latter requires a huge amount of spirit stones to purchase. Even if there are spirit stones, spirit fire is often out of stock unless it appears at some large auctions. Wanbaoxing clearly remembered that when he was still in the qi refining stage, their Wanbao Pavilion once auctioned off spiritual fire. That auction caused a sensation among countless alchemists, and was eventually sold to an old nascent soul monster named Xian Yi from Dan Valley at a sky-high price. That was 100 years ago. In the past 100 years, there has been no news of spiritual fire. Could it be that this senior actually mastered the spiritual fire? Wanbaoxing looked at Lin Yi with eyes full of awe and disbelief. It is a miracle that such a young alchemist can master the spiritual fire. He secretly thanked his luck in his heart that he had not neglected Lin Yi before, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. None of this is important. The important thing is that every alchemist who masters the spiritual fire is at least a nascent soul stage expert. Apart from the old monster in the nascent soul stage, who else would dare to contain such violent power as spiritual fire into Danshan for cultivation? That's no different from an ordinary person committing suicide by taking arsenic. Arsenic is highly poisonous in the eyes of mortals, but isn't spiritual fire the same to cultivators? Thinking of this, his body trembled slightly. Nascent soul stage. His gaze towards Lin Yi was suddenly filled with awe, and his entire being became even more respectful. He took the storage bag handed to him by Lin Yi with trembling hands, and then opened it carefully. Seeing the bottles filled with medicine, he was even more shocked. He took out a jade bottle, uncorked it, poured out a pill and examined it carefully. The pill is crystal clear and exudes a rich fragrance. Both its quality and color are top-notch. Moreover, this pill is the Xiwen pill that can only be taken by cultivators in the nascent soul stage. Hiss! Wanbaoxing took a breath. The first thing he did was to produce a nascent soul level elixir. The identity of this senior in front of him was obvious. The look he gave Lin Yi was more than just awe. It is more of a fanaticism that is close to worship. In fact, he had no idea that Lin Yi could refine Xiwen Dan when he was in the Jindan stage. Now that I have reached the nascent soul level, refining it becomes easier. Senior, this elixir is of superior quality, better than those in the Dan Valley and Dan Tower. I wonder what sect or school you came from. Wanbaoxing put down the pill in his hand, his face full of shock. Then he asked a question that made Lin Yi frown. He saw that Lin Yi, who had been smiling just now, suddenly had a cold expression. Wanbaoxing instantly realized that he had said the wrong thing. He broke out in a cold sweat on his back and his face turned pale. He quickly changed the subject and said in an almost flattering tone, "It is the junior who is rude, please don't blame me, senior." Then he took out the pills and counted them carefully one by one. "Senior, there are 260 Xiwen pills in total. According to the market price, the total is 260,000 spirit stones. What do you think?" Lin Yi's frown gradually relaxed. Then I realized that I was being too sensitive. Most of the alchemists in the world have connections with the two major alchemy holy places. Even if I don't say it, based on my efficiency and quality in alchemy, others can guess it almost exactly at a glance. However, now that I have reached the nascent soul stage, I naturally don't have to be afraid of these things. Not to mention being exposed, I will still look for the other person when the time is right or appropriate. 260,000 spirit stones. Lin Yi is very satisfied with this. It turns out that being an alchemist is a good profession. But this is closely related to his mastery of spiritual fire. If I use ordinary earth fire to refine pills, it would probably take a long time to earn these spirit stones. It's only been 2 days. However, when he thought that he was not the only one in the world who could achieve such efficiency in alchemy, he instantly became unhappy. He knew that with the guidance of the alchemy master at his side at all times, Xiao Han's efficiency in alchemy would probably be even higher than his own. Of course, Xiao Han could definitely not catch up with him now. After all, there was a huge gap in strength between the two sides. If the two people were of the same level, with Dan Zun by their side to give guidance at any time, Xiao Han would definitely be a little stronger, but only to a limited extent. Lin Yi believes that as he continues to refine pills and gradually finds his own way, the gap between the two sides will become smaller and smaller. Well, 260,000 spirit stones are not a small amount, but I still need 40,000 to upgrade the simulator. Lin Yi sighed, secretly thinking about how to collect the remaining spirit stones as quickly as possible. His eyes fell on Wan Baoxing. Well, Lin Yi pondered for a moment and spoke. Give me 300,000 spirit stones first, and prepare the alchemy materials. Send someone to pick them up the day after tomorrow. Wan Baoxing was stunned at first, and then he understood instantly the senior is short of spirit stones. What is he afraid of? What I am afraid of is that I won't be able to keep this master in front of me. And now the senior in front of him wanted to pay spirit stones in advance, which meant that they were in short supply. What is Wan Bao Pavilion lacking now? What is lacking is not spirit stones, but elixirs. He naturally wouldn't be afraid that Lin Yi would steal his tens of thousands of spirit stones. Not to mention Lin Yi's superb strength, just his identity as an alchemist makes it impossible for him to do such a thing. Wan Baoxing was overjoyed and nodded quickly, saying, "No problem. Don't worry, senior. I will go and prepare the spirit stones and materials right away." He was so excited that his hands were shaking. To be able to cooperate with such a powerful alchemist for a long time was a great thing for Wan Bao Pavilion. Thinking of this, he hurriedly shouted to the back, "Xiao He, quickly prepare 300,000. No, prepare 500,000 spirit stones for the senior, as well as materials for alchemy." Wan Baoxing's voice trembled slightly with excitement. While he gave the order, he secretly watched Lin Yi's reaction. After a while, a young man dressed as a waiter came hurriedly and bowed respectfully to Wan Baoxing and Lin Yi. Then he asked cautiously, "Boss, what do you want?" "Go to the warehouse and get 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, as well as all the materials for refining the Xiwen pill. Take as many as you can, immediately." Wan Baoxing spoke in a hurried tone, leaving no room for doubt. Although the waiter Xiao He didn't understand why the shopkeeper was so anxious, he still didn't dare to neglect it and quickly responded with a yes. He turned around and ran to the warehouse. Lin Yi looked at Wan Baoxing's attentive appearance and smiled secretly in his heart, but his face remained expressionless. He just nodded lightly, which was regarded as his approval of his approach. Chapter 062 You Will Die Today. About an incense stick of time later, the waiter Xiao He came back with a heavy storage bag in his hand, and handed it to Wan Baoxing respectfully. Wan Baoxing took the storage bag with both hands and checked it carefully. After confirming that everything was correct, he respectfully handed the storage bag to Lin Yi. "Senior, the 500,000 spirit stones and the materials for refining the elixir are all here. Please count them." Lin Yi took the storage bag, probed into it with his spiritual sense, glanced at it briefly, nodded, and said, "No need to order, I believe in shopkeeper Wan." After saying that, he put away the storage bag, then stood up and prepared to leave. Upon seeing this, Wan Baoxing hurriedly stood up to see Lin Yi off, and accompanied her all the way to the entrance of Wan Bao Pavilion before reluctantly bowing and saying goodbye. After returning to the cave, Lin Yi couldn't wait to take out the spirit stones from the storage bag. A total of 300,000 low-grade spirit stones were piled up like a small mountain, emitting a bright light. He took a deep breath, calmed his excitement, then put all the spirit stones into the simulator and clicked the upgrade button. Ding! The simulator is being upgraded. This upgrade will take 3 days. 3 days passed in a flash. During these 3 days, Lin Yi was not idle either. He used the materials provided by Wan Baoxing to continue refining pills, which were suitable for all levels. Not only did he pay back the 200,000 spiritual stones he had advanced, he also refined an extra batch of pills in case of emergency. 3 days later, the simulator was upgraded. Lin Yi couldn't wait to open the simulator, only to see that the interface had been completely renewed and the operation was more convenient. It's just that the functionality remains to be explored. He was delighted and immediately recharged 3,000 spirit stones and clicked to start the simulation. Fortunately, the number of spirit stones has not changed. Then, lines of text appeared on the virtual panel in front of him. Start simulation. In the first month, you have been practicing in seclusion. Rich spiritual energy surrounds your cave, forming a thin mist. Others can vaguely smell the fragrance of elixir wafting out of the cave. In the second month, you sent the newly refined elixir to Wanbao Pavilion. In the shop, you unexpectedly found Xia Xiao-chan. She was wearing a simple servant's uniform and was busy sorting pills on the shelves, with beads of sweat oozing from her forehead. When she saw you, she was stunned at first, then she smiled with surprise and greeted you warmly. You responded to her calmly without much communication. You just handed the pill to Wan Baoxing and left. In the third month, rumors began to spread in Baiyun market that you were a master of alchemy. Some people say that your alchemy skills are superb, comparable to the 3 great masters of Danta. Some people say that you have a long-lost recipe that can make a miraculous elixir that can bring the dead back to life. The rumor is getting more and more outrageous. If the high-ranking officials of the market hadn't come out to refute it, your cave would have been surrounded by people who came to ask for the elixir. In the 4th month, Xia Xiao-chan came to your cave, brought you the alchemy materials purchased by Wanbao Pavilion, and took away the elixir you had made. She seems to have become the exclusive liaison between Wanbao Pavilion and you, and her behavior is more confident and calm. In the 5th month, you thought for a long time and finally decided to go to Xiun sect to find the Heavenly Sword Lord. In the 6th month, you come to the gate of Xiun sect. You give your name and claim to be an old friend visiting you, and ask to see the Heavenly Sword Lord. Everyone in the Purple Cloud sect was quite shocked. After all, the Heavenly Sword Divine Lord had been in seclusion for many years and had not been concerned with worldly affairs. After some briefing, you finally met the Lord of Heavenly Sword. The two of you recognized each other, and you explained that you were Master Wanjian's disciple, and displayed a sword energy that symbolized your identity. The Heavenly Sword Lord was extremely excited and immediately appointed you as the second elder of the Purple Cloud sect, with the same status as him. In the 7th month, you and the Heavenly Sword Master will learn sword skills from each other on Purple Cloud Peak and discuss your cultivation experience. He is very envious of your talent for condensing a sword infant, and laments that he has no chance of condensing a sword infant. In the 8th month, you bid farewell to the Heavenly Sword Lord and set off for Wuden Town, intending to kill Xiao Han and Dan Zun. However, when you arrived at Wuden Town, you found that the two had gone out and were nowhere to be found. In the 9th month, you stepped into the Spirit Snake Valley. The spirit snakes that once filled the valley are now few and far between, and the hissing sounds of the snakes have become sparse and faint. You secretly speculate in your heart that the sharp decrease in the number of spirit snakes may be related to the fact that you took away the lava fire. The lava true fire is the core of the spiritual vein of the Spirit Snake Valley, nourishing all living things on this land. The spiritual fire was taken away, and the spiritual energy of the Spirit Snake Valley also declined, causing the spirit snakes to begin to migrate. In the 10th month, you returned to Xiun sect and brought back several sets of carefully crafted formation plates. You place these array plates at the entrance, depths, and around the lava cave to form a complete maze system. After the array was activated, streams of light intertwined into a huge energy net, covering the entire lava cave. In the first year and 5 months, you detected the figures of Master Dan and his disciples through the induction array left in the Spirit Snake Valley. They seem to be heading towards the depths of the Spirit Snake Valley. You are startled and immediately set off to catch them all in the valley. However, just as Master Dan and his apprentice were about to step into the valley, Xiao Han suddenly stopped, frowning, as if he had noticed something strange. For the first year and 6 months, Xiao Han wandered around outside the Spirit Snake Valley, refusing to take even a single step into the valley. Sometimes he looked up into the valley, sometimes he lowered his head in deep thought, his expression solemn. You hid in the dark and observed, feeling extremely puzzled. You guessed that Xiao Han's abnormal behavior might be related to the sharp decrease in the number of spirit snakes. When you took away the lava true fire, the spiritual energy in the Spirit Snake Valley declined and the number of spirit snakes dropped sharply. This may have alerted Xiao Han and made him realize that there might be some danger in the valley. Year and 7 months later, Master Dan and his disciples began to withdraw from the valley, wanting to leave quietly. For the past 6 months, they have always been wandering outside the valley, not daring to go deeper. Now they have chosen to leave, obviously they have noticed something. Of course you couldn't let them go. You flashed and chased them out of the valley like a ghost, blocking their way. Lin Yi. When Dan Zun saw you, he could hardly hide the surprise on his face. He looked you up and down, his eyes full of disbelief. You are already at the nascent soul stage. You ignored his surprise and asked coldly, why don't you go into the valley? The Dan Master looked solemn and said in a deep voice, I have been to the Spirit Snake Valley once before. This time I found that the number of spirit snakes in the valley has dropped sharply, and the spiritual energy is not as good as before. This makes me alert. Moreover, he paused and glanced at Xiao Han beside him. The most important thing is that Honor sensed a strong killing intent that enveloped the entire valley. Xiao Han's face was also a little pale. You looked at Xiao Han, a cold light flashed in your eyes. Xiao Han, you must die today. Chapter 063 What he saw. Dan Zun stood in front of Xiao Han and begged you to let them go. Fellow Daoist Lin, you have already reached the nascent soul stage. We, the Master and your disciples, are no longer a threat to you. Please show some mercy and let us live. You are well aware of the principle of letting the tiger go back to the mountains. If you let them go today, there will be endless troubles in the future. Therefore, you rejected the request of the Dan Master without hesitation. When the Dan Zun saw that you were determined to kill them, a trace of determination flashed in his eyes, and then he possessed Xiao Han. Xiao Han's body swelled up instantly, and a powerful aura burst out from him. It turned out to be Dan Zun performing his escape technique. However, you had already expected him to do so and had prepared for it in advance. At the moment when Xiao Han was about to escape, you pinched the magic formula in your hand. A dazzling sword light shot up into the sky and turned into a giant sword 100 meters long. With the power to destroy the world, it cut through the sky and slashed down towards Xiao Han. The giant sword fell, and Xiao Han's body was instantly split in half. Blood splattered, staining the ground red. The spirit of the Dan Zun also dissipated and disappeared between heaven and earth. At the moment of death, Xiao Han's body, which was split in half, was still struggling to raise his head, tears and blood flowing from his eyes. He looked at the sky and let out a shrill roar. I see. So that's how it is. He seemed to understand something, but before he could say it out loud, he completely lost his life force. You are deeply surprised by this. You didn't expect that this master and disciple would die so easily. A stone in your heart finally falls to the ground. But he was also very confused about what Xiao Han shouted. You see, he looked up at the sky, and then he raised his head. Then you saw a scene that shocked you. The sky became as dark as ink, and golden thunders circled in the air, like ferocious giant pythons, making a deafening roar. A terrifying divine power descends, making you feel suffocated. Then a bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket fell from the sky and struck straight towards you. You are terrified and want to resist, but you find yourself unable to move, imprisoned by an invisible force. The thunder falls, and you are instantly swallowed up and turned into ashes. This simulation ends. Due to the simulator upgrade, the novice protection mechanism has been removed, so the spirit stones generated in each simulation cannot be settled. Start calculating this reward. Your cultivation level will remain the same in this simulation. You can spend spiritual stones to get one of the following rewards. 1. The cultivation level of the late sword infant. 2. This simulation experience. Number of simulations remaining, 0. The simulation is over. Lin Yi stared at the simulator panel with a frown on his face. What was the reason for that sudden thunder? Could it be that there is some kind of strange symbiotic relationship between him and Xiao Han? He recalled the story of Li Yuanba and Yuan Chengdu from the book he had heard in his previous life. That was after Li Yuanba killed Yuan Chengdu, and then thunder sounded a warning. He raised his hammer and cursed the sky, and was struck by lightning and died. If Xiao Han and I also have this kind of mutually beneficial relationship, then if one of us lives, we both live, and if one of us dies, we both die. But he quickly rejected the idea. In previous simulations, Xiao Han had killed himself many times. There was no vision when I died. And Xiao Han's last words before his death were "so that's it." It's more like an epiphany, as if I suddenly understood something. What did he understand? Lin Yi scratched his hair irritably, feeling that his thoughts were like a tangled mess that he couldn't sort out. He seemed to be in a huge maze, unable to find the exit and seeing no hope. Where is my way out? Lin Yi murmured to himself, his eyes full of confusion and despair. He raised his head and looked at the gloomy sky outside the cave, feeling powerless in his heart. Oh my God! He was about to curse, but stopped himself. This is a world of cultivating immortals, where the laws of nature are strict and any negligence may result in divine punishment. He took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and sighed heavily. Well, I can't see a way out. Xiao Han's dying look and the words "so that's how it is" lingered in his mind. At this moment, he felt that he could not see any hope. What did he see? Lin Yi roared in a low voice and slammed his fist on the table, sending sawdust flying. He felt like a puppet, being manipulated by fate. If you don't kill Xiao Han, you will be killed by the opponent. If you kill Xiao Han, you will be struck by lightning. He is my father and my ancestor, so he can kill me but I can't kill him. Lin Yi gritted his teeth, his heart filled with reluctance and anger. He sat dejectedly on the mat. Is this the villain's destiny? Are you destined to passively wait for the protagonist to achieve success in his training, and then come and get killed? No. I won't give up. Lin Yi sat up straight abruptly, a fierce light flashing in his eyes. I can't kill Xiao Han, but can't I kill Dan Zun? Can't I kill the people around him? A bold idea emerged in his mind. If he killed Dan Zun, it would be equivalent to cutting off Xiao Han's arm. Without the guidance of Master Dan, Xiao Han would definitely not have advanced so quickly. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became, as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. Assuming that he had killed the Dan Zun and robbed Xiao Han of all his resources and benefits, then he used the power in his hands to suppress Xiao Han everywhere. By the time Xiao Han condensed his nascent soul, he would have already ascended to the immortal realm. At that time, Xiao Han was just an ant in his eyes. Child of destiny. If I wait until I am strong enough, even the laws of nature will submit to me. Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt a surge of confidence in his heart. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes full of determination and confidence. The more awesome you are, the more ruthless you are, the more interested I am in you. Just wait, Xiao Han, Dan Zun, I want to live the life you look up to. Look at two simple options this time. Lin Yi didn't hesitate, there was no need to choose cultivation. Originally, my cultivation level did not increase this time. After thinking about it, he directly chose the simulated experience. A huge amount of information flooded into my mind. Compared with the simple text description, the memory at this moment was more vivid and more cruel. In the previous simulation, the thunder from the sky was just cold words. And now, he truly felt the destructive power. The fear that goes deep into the bones and the despair when death comes. Snort! Lin Yi groaned, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. The severe pain of thunder piercing through his body in his memory seemed to be happening to him in reality, causing him to hunch over and curl up on the ground. Cold sweat soaked his clothes, his face turned extremely pale, and his lips were completely bloodless. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead and dripped onto the cold ground. He clenched his teeth tightly, trying hard not to groan in pain. Chapter 064 Who dares to ruin the Dao Master's good deeds? Who, after a long time, Lin Yi slowly raised his head, breathing heavily. His eyes were filled with fear and terror, as if he had just walked through the gates of hell. He raised his hands tremblingly, looking at his intact body, his heart filled with relief. Although it was just a simulated experience, the feeling of being on the verge of death was unforgettable. It seems that directly killing Master Xiao Han and his apprentice will not work. Lin Yi murmured to himself, with a hint of helplessness and bitterness in his tone. He staggered to his feet and walked out of the cave step by step. This is not the best time for simulation. Because of the memory of being struck by lightning, his soul is not very stable. He needed to calm down before he could simulate again. Lin Yi walked aimlessly in the market, trying to let the bustling crowds and dazzling array of goods around him dilute the fear brought by the thunder tribulation that remained in his mind. The market was bustling with people, with the sounds of hawking and bargaining coming one after another. He saw an old cultivator in ragged clothes, holding a spiritual herb tremblingly and trying to sell it to passers-by. The magical herb had long lost its luster and its leaves were curled. The old man's voice was hoarse and weak, but with a hint of unwilling stubbornness. Not far away, a burly man with a face full of flesh was shouting at a young casual cultivator. The young cultivator lowered his head, his face pale, and held a spirit stone tightly in his hand, seeming to be hesitating about something. The strong man's saliva sprayed all over his face, but he didn't dare to wipe it off. He just endured it silently. Lin Yi saw a young female cultivator in gorgeous clothes, walking by with a proud look on her face, surrounded by a group of maids. Wherever she glanced, pedestrians moved away, fearing that they would bump into her. There was a hint of disdain and arrogance on the female cultivator's face, as if the whole world should submit to her feet. Lin Yi's eyes swept over these various casual cultivators, and he felt mixed emotions. He knew that these independent cultivators were struggling for survival and striving for immortality. Some of them are humble, some are strong, some are pitiful, and some are hateful, but they all have one thing in common, that is the desire to cultivate immortality. Boy, how could I possibly lie to you? I am a master in the foundation establishment stage. How could I embezzle the spirit stones of a young cultivator like you in the chi refining stage? A voice woke Lin Yi from his thoughts. He followed the sound and found a chubby Taoist priest who was pulling a young cultivator at the 8th level of chi refining, trying to sell his talismans with saliva flying. The young monk looked hesitant, as if he was weighing something. Talisman. Lin Yi's heart moved. Of course, Lin Yi had heard of the talisman. Most of the talismans are made by ancestors in the Jindan stage themselves. A cultivator in the Jindan stage can seal part of the power of his magic weapon into a talisman, given to younger generations in the family or disciples in the sect. When fighting, just activate this talisman. It will exert a power equivalent to that of a part of the magic weapon. Therefore, you only need one talisman during the Qi training stage or the foundation building stage. That's a life-saving thing. When Lin Yi was at the third level of Qi refining, he had imagined that one day his good luck would suddenly explode and he would obtain a talisman, and from then on he would kill anyone who stood in his way, regardless of whether it was a Buddha or a Buddha. Unfortunately, this thing is not easy to get. Don't disbelieve me. When have I ever lied? This talisman was passed down from my ancestors. If I wasn't short of spiritual stones, there's no way I would sell it to you. Fat. Lin Yi was stunned, this name was still fresh in his memory. He then took a few steps back and walked into the alley. At this moment, every move of the other party was within his perception. There was indeed a talisman in Fat Da's hand. The talisman paper was yellowish, with some complicated patterns drawn on the surface, faintly emitting a trace of spiritual energy fluctuations. However, according to Lin Yi's eyesight, this is not a so-called talisman at all, but just an ordinary spirit storage talisman. The energy inside seems to be amazing, but it lacks effective means of attack and is unable to cause any effective damage. At this time, the casual cultivator at the 8th level of Qi refining on the opposite side had already been tempted. He stared at the talisman in the fat Taoist's hand and was about to take out his spirit stones to buy this so-called talisman that looked good but was useless. Lin Yi suddenly walked out of the alley. Hey, you're really talented, selling the soul storage talisman as a talisman. Lin Yi said with a hint of sarcasm in his tone, looking directly at the fat Taoist priest. When Fat Da heard this, he instantly became furious and his fat trembled. Who the hell doesn't want to live anymore, saying that my talisman is a soul storage talisman? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Lin Yi, and then pointed at Lin Yi angrily and cursed, "Boy, as the saying goes, blocking someone's path to wealth is like cutting off their path to life. Today, I will fight you to the death." Lin Yi was happy. This fat Taoist priest has no bottom line in doing things. How can it be easy for a cultivator at the 8th level of Qi refining to earn some spirit stones? And bought a fake talisman. If you use this to fight with others, you can take it out at the critical moment and shout, "Look at my talisman." As a result, a lot of spiritual energy accumulated in normal times is stored inside, and the opponent will be laughing out loud. It's no big deal to laugh your teeth off, but if it were a life and death crisis, you would probably lose your life. Thinking of this, Lin Yi became even more angry. You are such an unscrupulous fat man. It's okay for you to dig up people's ancestral graves normally, but now you even do such a wicked thing. I must teach you a lesson today. When Fat Da heard this, his fat face turned red, like a cat whose tail was stepped on, and his whiskers were twitching with anger. Everyone can brag, today I will let you see how powerful I am. After saying that, he slapped the storage bag on his waist. A flying sword with a cold glow flew out with a whoosh, the sword body humming, pointing directly at Lin Yi. The flying sword was snow-white all over, with an extremely sharp blade that emitted a faint chill. It turned out to be a top-grade spiritual weapon. Seeing this, Lin Yi couldn't help but curl his lips, thinking to himself, I didn't expect this fat guy to be so brave. Not only did he not retreat, but he dared to take the initiative to attack. He caught a glimpse of Fat Da's pretending to be ferocious expression out of the corner of his eye and sneered in his heart. The eyesight of a nascent soul cultivator was so sharp that he saw through Fat Da's bluffing at a glance. Fat Da was still in an attacking posture, looking ready to fight to the death. The flying sword in his hand was emitting cold light, as if he was ready to launch a fatal blow at any time. However, in Lin Yi's eyes, this was just a trick. The Fat Da in front of him was actually a piece of wood, standing quietly in place, while he himself was secretly running out of the alley. His speed was so fast it was astonishing. Lin Yi sneered, "Want to escape right under my nose? You really underestimate me." Before he finished speaking, his figure turned into a shadow and disappeared instantly. Only the casual cultivator at the 8th level of Qi refining was left standing there in a daze, not knowing what to do. Chapter 65, 3 Corpses Brain Pill. On the other side, Fatda just came out of the alley and immediately took out a yellowed talisman, and his fingertips trembled as he activated it instantly. This talisman is his most precious treasure, called Earth Escape Talisman. At the critical moment, he can instantly drill into the ground and escape dozens of miles away. But before he could crush the talisman, the scene in front of him suddenly darkened and a figure blocked his way like a ghost. Fat D. Evans didn't even see how the other party appeared. He felt an invisible pressure holding him tightly, unable to move even a finger. His eyes widened in horror, and the flesh on his fat face trembled even more violently, like sifting bran. "Senior, please spare my life. Senior, please spare my life." Fatda had a sad face, his fat was squeezed into a ball, like a lamb to be slaughtered. "I am just a poor little casual cultivator, who usually just wants to make a living. I am really not a bad person." Lin Yi smiled slightly, with a hint of teasing in his tone. "Edit, keep editing. You must have dug up people's ancestral graves a lot, right? Just now he was acting so righteous and wanted to fight with me. Why are you begging for mercy now?" Fatty's face changed, and he said quickly, "How dare I fight with the heavens and the earth? I dare not fight with you, senior. Please forgive me and treat me like a fart." Lin Yi shook his head, a playful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Sorry, I have been fasting for many years, I can't fart." After saying that, Lin Yi picked up Pang De, like a chicken, and turned to walk towards his own cave. This fat guy had cheated him once in the simulation. Although Lin Yi was not a person who held grudges, he felt that this person would definitely be useful in the future. If used well, it is a sharp knife. After arriving at the cave, Fatty continued to struggle. Lin Yi impatiently stepped on his back, pinning him firmly to the ground. "Be honest." Lin Yi snorted coldly, stretched out his hand, and a pill with a faint green light appeared out of thin air. It exudes a creepy and cold aura. Fatda stared at the pill with wide eyes and shouted in horror, "What is this? What are you going to do?" Lin Yi ignored his question, grabbed Fatty's chin and stuffed the pill into his mouth. Fatda didn't have time to react, and the pill melted in his mouth. A stream of cold liquid flowed down his throat into his stomach, causing him to shiver. "Fatty, this pill is called the 3 Corpses Brain Pill." Lin Yi's voice was like the whisper of a demon from hell. "It would be fine if you listen to me. If you don't, I can make you wish you were dead with just a thought." After hearing this, Fatda collapsed to the ground like a frost-bitten eggplant, his fat face filled with despair and fear. He curled up, holding his head in his hands, and trembling like a frightened fat rat. He cried and said, "I am devoted to Taoism and have never offended anyone. Why did you want to hurt me like this, senior?" The mixture of tears and sweat on his fat face looked particularly funny. Lin Yi looked down at him, with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. "Fatda, you don't have to pretend in front of me. I know exactly who you are." Fatda's body suddenly stiffened and his crying stopped abruptly. He raised his head, his eyes flickering, not daring to look Lin Yi in the eye. "Senior, you've got the wrong person. Although my name is Fatty, I'm really not the person you're looking for." He still insisted on being stubborn and tried to get away with it. Lin Yi curled his lips and sneered, "You even dared to dig up the ancestral tomb of the ghost spirit sect, but now you dare not admit who you are." Hearing this, Fatda broke down, cried like a baby, and asked with tears and snot, "Senior, who are you? I have an 80-year-old mother and a 3-year-old child, both of whom are waiting for me to support them." Lin Yi smiled. An 80-year-old mother and a 3-year-old child, they really have a lot to say. He pretended to be profound. "I will be your master from now on. If you behave well, maybe I can even make your 80-year-old mother worry-free. If you don't behave well, not only your mother, but you will be finished too." Then, he showed off his own strength a bit. A sharp and domineering aura was released instantly, sweeping across the entire cave like a violent storm, making Fatty unable to breathe. Fatta was so frightened that his legs went limp and he collapsed to the ground. He could feel that under this power, he had no power to resist and was as small as an ant. Seeing this, Lin Yi stopped paying attention to the other party. At least he had to give the other person some time to digest it. He didn't expect that he would run into this guy just by taking a walk. I originally thought that we would meet at least a year later. As a result, we met by chance. However, this is also related to the openness of Baiun market. Almost most of the independent cultivators know about this place. What he gave Fatty was not the so-called 3 corpses brain pill, but an ordinary chi-replenishing pill. Afraid that the other party would recognize him, he simply used his spiritual power to change its color and aura. If you can use Fat D. Evans, then use him. If you can't, then it doesn't matter much. However, it was true that a trace of sword energy was shot at the opponent. Even if the other party runs to the ends of the earth, Lin Yi can still feel his trace. In order to remove this tracking aura, one must have someone of the same level as Lin Yi. But Fatty was driven out of the cave by Lin Yi, and he stared at the sky in a daze. He originally just wanted to get some spirit stones in Baiun market, but he didn't expect to run into this evil god. Fatta's eyes rolled around, and he glanced at Lin Yi's cave from time to time, feeling uneasy. He has a principle in life: if he sees someone whose cultivation level he cannot understand, he will immediately run away. This also helped him escape from the gates of hell many times. When he saw Lin Yi coming to find him, Pangda thought that he had done too many strange things and it might be his enemy looking for revenge. So without thinking, he left a fake substitute there and used his escape method, Earth Escape Technique. Once this talisman was activated, he would instantly sink into the ground, as agile as a loach. As a result, even after using the talismans, he was still caught red-handed. Thinking of the scene at that time, Pangda still feels scared. Lin Yi's big hand grasped the back of his neck tightly like an iron clamp, imprisoning all the spiritual power in his body. "You old Yuanying monster, I am doomed this time." Fatta had a sad face, and despair was written all over his fat face. He slapped his thigh hard, making a crisp sound and making him grimace in pain. He looked at Lin Yi's cave in the distance again, then found the manager in the market town and rented a cave not far from Lin Yi. He didn't know whether the pill Lin Yi gave him was a poison pill. The pill melted in his mouth, turning into a stream of icy liquid that flowed into his stomach, making him still feel a chill. Fatta didn't dare to gamble because he felt he only had one life. If you lose the bet, you will die. But Lin Yi, sensing that Fatty had rented a house not far from her, immediately raised the corners of her mouth slightly. It seems that this fat guy is quite sensible. After what happened just now, his consciousness, which had been frightened by the thunder, stabilized. The spiritual consciousness that was originally a little vague has now become much more solid. Chapter 066, Grandpa. In that case, let's start the next simulation. Lin Yi sat cross-legged, reciting silently in his heart. After saying that, he recharged another 3,000 spirit stones and chose to start. I saw a light screen appear in front of me, showing the interface of the simulator. Simulation starts in the first month. You will go into seclusion to stabilize your spirit after being frightened. Although you are fine now, you feel that you cannot be careless and need to rest for a while. Every day, you sit cross-legged in the cave, breathing in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to nourish your soul. A faint scent of concentration lingers in the cave, bringing peace and tranquility. You occasionally read some immortal cultivation books, but more often than not, you just quietly feel the changes in yourself and ensure the stability of your soul. In the second month, you feel that you are completely well again, and then you start to make elixirs. Inside the alchemy furnace, the essence of the elixir slowly blends under your control, emitting waves of refreshing medicinal fragrance. You refine a wide variety of elixirs, ranging from common chi-boosting elixirs to precious healing elixirs. You are immersed in the joy of alchemy, feeling the flow of spiritual energy and the formation of the elixir, and your heart is filled with a sense of accomplishment. Pangda also knows that you are an alchemist, and according to the Wanbao Pavilion staff who came to deliver the elixir, you are actually an alchemist comparable to the three venerables of the Dan Tower. Fatta had some doubts about the 3 corpses brain pill you gave him before, but now his doubts have been completely dispelled. He would come to hang around outside your cave every now and then, nodding and fawning, trying to get the antidote from you. In the 3rd month, Fatta came again to ask for the antidote. You were annoyed by him and said to him impatiently, "As long as you don't betray me, it won't attack." When Fatta heard this, he immediately patted his chest and promised that he would obey you from now on, like a pug wagging its tail for mercy. In the 4th month, rumors began to spread in Bianfang that you were a master of alchemy. Some people say that you are comparable to the 3 great masters of Danta. This has spread like wildfire. If it weren't for the high-ranking officials in the market giving the order, your cave would have been surrounded by people begging for pills. You remained non-committal and continued to focus on refining the elixir, occasionally giving Fat Druid some pointers and asking him to run errands and do odd jobs. In the 4th month, Xiao Chan brought the alchemy materials and took away the pills you had made. Now she is the liaison between Wanbao Pavilion and you. Every time you meet, she will express her admiration for you. In the 5th month, you thought for a long time and decided to go to Ziyun sect again. You felt that if you wanted to change your fate, you couldn't do without this natural ally. In the 6th month, you came to Ziyun sect. You said that an old friend came to visit and asked to meet the heavenly sword god. Everyone in Ziyun sect was quite shocked, and immediately awakened the heavenly sword god who was in seclusion. The 2 of you recognized each other, and you said that you were the disciple of Master Wanjian. The heavenly sword lord was extremely excited, and immediately appointed you as the 2nd elder of the Purple Cloud sect, with the same status as him. In the 7th month, you debated swordplay with the Lord of 10,000 Swords at the top of Ziyun Peak. The Lord of Heavenly Sword has taught you all his life's learning, especially the Heavenly Sword art, which has brought you a lot of benefits. Through your sword fighting competition, Lord Wanjian also learned about your condensation of the sword infant. Looking at the sword infant you condensed, his eyes were full of envy, and he repeatedly praised your talent in swordsmanship. In the 8th month, you will give a golden sword energy containing pure sword intent to Lord Wanjian. This sword energy was passed down to you by Master Wanjian. It is like a flying dragon, circling and dancing in the air, emitting a heart-pounding pressure. The god of 10,000 swords took it with both hands, feeling the majestic sword power contained in it, and was so excited that tears streamed down his face. He integrated this sword energy into his own flying sword. The flying sword shone brightly and the sound of the sword resounded through the sky. After this, you and the god of 10,000 swords will continue to practice swordsmanship in Ziyun sect, confirming each other and making progress together. In the 9th month, you secretly summoned Fatta and ordered him to set up a secret spy force for you to command. You gave Fatta a large amount of spirit stones as starting capital. Fatty is already very good at dealing with people, and with the huge amount of spiritual stones you provided to pave the way, he quickly recruited a group of talented people, began to make arrangements in secret, and gradually established an intelligence network. In the 10th month, you specifically told Fatta to make finding the master and apprentice of Danzun his top priority, and to report to you immediately if he found any trace of them. In the 1st year and 3 months, Fatty sent a message saying that traces of Master Dan and his apprentice were found in the Loxia Mountains. The Loxia mountain range is a precipitous place with many monsters and beasts roaming everywhere. It is one of the famous dangerous places in the world of immortal cultivation. In the 1st year and 4 months, in order to ensure that everything would go smoothly, you personally invited Lord Wanjian to go to Loxia Mountains together. The Lord of 10,000 Swords readily agreed and promised to fight alongside you. The two of you worked together and soon found the hiding place of Dan Zun and Xiao Han, a hidden cave. When Master Dan saw you, he showed a shocked expression on his face, as if he couldn't believe that you would find this place. You asked Lord Wanjian to use his great magical powers to seal off the surrounding heaven and earth, cutting off the retreat route of Master Dan and his disciple. You walked up to the Dan Zun and said firmly, "Come with me. From now on, you and Xiao Han will sever your master-disciple relationship." Dan Zun looked embarrassed, he didn't want to leave Xiao Han. "But under your pressure and the intimidation of the 10,000 Swords Lord, I could only reluctantly agree." You took Dan Zun away from Loxia Mountains, leaving Xiao Han alone shivering in the cold wind, his eyes filled with despair and unwillingness. He secretly swore that sooner or later he would chop off your head. In the first year and 5 months, you brought Dan Zun back to Bianfeng City. He made a ring, created a space inside it, placed Dan Zun in the ring, and then strung him up with a rope and wore it around his neck. From now on, you also have a grandfather with you. At the same time, the demonic force Ghost Spirit sect began to invade the world of immortal cultivation on a large scale, attacking immortal markets and small and medium-sized sects everywhere. However, because Bianfeng City has you, an alchemy master comparable to the 3 great masters of Danta, in charge, the attack of the Guiling sect was temporarily contained and Bianfeng City was spared. At one time, countless independent cultivators and cultivators from small and medium-sized sects flocked to Biun Market to seek shelter, causing the caves in the market to be in short supply and prices to rise accordingly. During the first 6 months, the demonic monks became more and more rampant, burning, killing, looting, and committing all kinds of evil. The immortal sect finally reacted and began to organize disciples to resist the invasion. Countless monks dressed in costumes of various sects gathered together, forming a mighty team and rushing to the battlefield. Chapter 67, The Transformation of Dan Zun. In the first year and 8 months, Biun Market was like a stabilizing force because of your existence, and no evil cultivator dared to cause trouble. The monks in the market town live and work in peace and contentment, shops are doing a booming business, and the scene is prosperous. Although you live a secluded life, your name is passed on by word of mouth in the market and has almost become a symbol of the patron saint. The immortal cultivators lived in peace and began to form teams to go out and hunt demon cultivators. They traveled in groups of 3 or 5, looking after each other, and shuttled through the mountains and forests, searching for traces of the evil cultivators. Every time you successfully hunt down a demon cultivator, you will bring back some spoils and exchange them for spirit stones or other cultivation resources in the market. In the second year, although you never took action, in the eyes of the monks in Bianfeng City, you were their reassurance. Your existence itself is enough to shock the demons and make some of them dare not act rashly. The monks in the market are full of awe and gratitude towards you. They know that it is because of your existence that they can have a safe place to live here. In the third year, Bianfeng City has formed an organization called Biun Alliance. This alliance has 4 Jindan stage ancestors, more than 70 foundation building stage masters, and tens of thousands of Qi refining stage cultivators. They united as one to resist foreign enemies, eliminate evil and defend justice. The Biun Alliance has already conquered a large area of territory and reinforced the formations in the market several times, making the defenses of the market as solid as a rock. Although you are still low-key, you are respected as the leader of the Biun Alliance. With you here, they are no longer afraid, and march forward bravely to fight to protect Bianfeng City. In the 4th year, you will show your 4 kinds of spiritual fire to Dan Zun. Dan Zun was extremely surprised for a moment. He didn't expect that you already possessed 4 kinds of spiritual fire. Lava True Fire, Azure Sea Flame Heart, Purple Cloud Divine Fire, Nirvana Fire. After several years of getting along, Master Dan has gradually let go of everything from the past and started to try to accept you again. In the 4th year and 5 months, you opened your heart to Kaifeng and confessed that you had poisoned Dan Zun out of greed. You express sympathy for his situation and hope to reconcile with him. Master Dan told you that he was seriously injured at the time, and even if you didn't poison him, he wouldn't have lived long. And he was very impressed that you were able to cultivate to this level in such a short period of time. He admitted that he was blind at first and thought you were a waste and not worth training. Now, he finally understands that you are the real genius. In the 6th year, the demon monks noticed the rise of Bayun market. The ghost spirit sect sent out the blood demon sect and the Nether Valley, 2 major demon sects under its command, and sent out 3 nascent soul demons to attack Bayun market. Facing the attack of the 3 nascent soul demons, all the people in the Bayun alliance, including 4 Jindan stage ancestors and more than 70 foundation building stage masters, were no match. Then he led tens of thousands of Qi training cultivators and retreated to Bayun market, using the market's formation as the last line of defense. However, the formation jointly set up by the 4 Jindan stage ancestors was as fragile as paper under the attack of the 3 Yuanying stage demons, and was destroyed in an instant. The moment the formation was broken, despair appeared on the faces of countless independent cultivators and low-level cultivators. They knew that facing the attack of the nascent soul stage old demon, they had almost no hope of survival. Countless independent cultivators are looking to you for help at the critical moment of life and death. In their eyes, you are the last hope, the savior who can turn the tide. However, for the 3 nascent soul old demons, you are the purpose of their trip. They can easily deal with these casual cultivators. The 3 nascent soul stage old demons grinned and prepared to start slaughtering the independent cultivators in the market. Just then, you took action. You soar into the air, like a sword drawn from its sheath, piercing the sky. You are suspended in the air, emitting terrifying sword power, as if you are going to tear the heaven and earth apart. Your robes rustled and your long hair flew, like a banished immortal descending to the earth. You stretched out 2 fingers and pointed them into the air at the 3 nascent soul demons. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed color, and the heaven and earth shook. A giant sword 100 feet long appeared out of thin air and hovered in the air. Lightning flashed on the sword body, emitting an aura of destruction. The giant sword carried the force of thunder and slashed towards the 3 nascent soul demons at lightning speed. Even if the 3 old demons used all their strength, they would not be able to resist this shocking sword. After a deafening roar, the 3 nascent soul demons were reduced to ashes under the giant sword, and even the nascent soul could not escape. After this battle, your reputation will spread throughout the entire cultivation world. Everyone knows that you are not only a master of alchemy, but also a swordsman with unfathomable strength. From then on, the name of the sword immortal began to spread throughout the world, and he became the object of respect and worship of countless monks. In the 7th year, the news of the official alliance between the Bayun Alliance and the Ziyun sect spread throughout the world of immortal cultivation. For a time, many immortal forces responded and joined this emerging alliance. Bayanfang City is bustling with activity, as monks from various sects gather here to discuss plans to fight against the evil ways. At this moment, the envoys from Tianxian Taoist Palace came to Bayun Market. The purpose of their trip is to form an alliance with you. However, to everyone's surprise, you rejected Tianxian Dao Palace's proposal. This move caused an uproar across the world. Many monks were discussing, wondering why you would be so petty at such an important moment and refuse to form an alliance with the powerful Tianxian Dao Palace. Faced with everyone's doubts, you did not back down. You revealed a forgotten past event to the public in front of all the monks in the world. You told me how, when you were an unknown teenager, you knelt in front of the Tianxian Taoist Palace for 3 days and 3 nights, begging them to accept you as a disciple, but were ultimately rejected. Your words were so powerful that they caused a huge stir among the crowd. The world of immortal cultivation was in uproar, and countless people accused Tianxian Dao Palace of being blind and actually rejecting a top immortal cultivation genius. The envoy from Tianxian Taoist Palace turned pale, but was unable to refute. They confirmed your statement by checking the assessment quota. Back then, you did try to join the Tianxian Taoist Palace, but were rejected by them. For a moment, Tianxian Dao Palace was filled with shame and lost all face. At the same time, I am also shocked by your cultivation speed. According to calculations by some people, you have only been practicing Taoism for more than 40 years, but you have already achieved the nascent soul stage. Such talent is unprecedented and will never be repeated. There are even rumors that you are the reincarnation of an ancient swordsman. In the 8th year, under your leadership, the immortal path put up a tenacious resistance and temporarily formed a balance of power with the evil path. However, you know that this is just the calm before the storm. You know, when the ghost spirit sect's great elder comes out, that will be the day when the immortal path will be defeated. Chapter 68 I am the Dan Emperor. In the 9th year, you learned from Fat Da that Xiao Han joined the Tianxian Taoist Palace. This news makes you particularly concerned, because you know that Tianxian Dao Palace has a spiritual fire. In the 10th year, the news that Xiao Han joined Tianxian Dao Palace made you feel uncomfortable. You secretly contacted the elders of Tianxian Dao Palace, promising them benefits, hoping that they would expel Xiao Han, but they refused. You let Pang Da spread the news that Tianxian Dao Palace has something to do with the demonic path. A few days later, rumors spread in the world of immortal cultivation that Tianxian Dao Palace was colluding with the demonic path. At first it was just hearsay, but soon, the so-called evidence came one after another, and even the footage of the secret meeting between the disciples of Tianxian Taoist Palace and the monks of Guiling sect was leaked. For a time, Tianxian Dao Palace was unable to defend itself and its reputation plummeted. You watched all this with a cold eye, waiting for the right opportunity. In the 11th year, the situation of Tianxian Taoist Palace became even more difficult. The tomb of the ancestors was robbed and the relics were lost, which undoubtedly added fuel to the fire. Xiao Han was also implicated and suspected of being involved in the tomb robbery, and was eventually expelled from Tianxian Dao Palace. You secretly instruct Fat Da to stop spreading rumors and secretly return the ancestors' relics. You know that everything is excessive, and pushing Tianxian Dao Palace too hard will be disadvantageous. In the 12th year, you brought Venerable Dan back to Dan Tower. Venerable Dan said that Venerable Ling was the one who killed him. Then Danta and Dan Gu joined forces to hunt down Ling Zunzun. With your status as the disciple of the Dan Master, you will successfully become the senior brother of the Dan Tower, and your status will be further elevated. In the 13th year, Danta and Dan Valley held an alchemy competition. Disciples from the two major alchemy holy places gathered together. There were also alchemy masters from other sects who came here to compete. The scene was grand and spectacular. In the center of the arena, the huge alchemy furnace exudes an ancient atmosphere, and the air is filled with the fragrance of various spiritual medicines. You look focused, controlling the Dan fire with skillful techniques, and your every move exudes the demeanor of a master. One after another, plump, round, and spiritual pills flew out of your furnace, drawing bursts of amazement. In the end, you won the championship with an undisputed advantage. The whole audience was boiling, and the cheers were deafening. The title of Dan Emperor resounded through the sky. For the first time, a look of relief appeared in the eyes of Dan Zun. In the 14th year, you can already participate in all major decisions of Danta. In the conference hall, you pointed out that now that immortals and demons are at war, Danta, as a holy place for alchemy, has been labeled as an immortal, and there is no way to avoid being hunted down by the ghost spirit sect and the demons. Instead of passively defending, it is better to take the initiative to attack. Although Danta is not a main combat profession, he also has to contribute to the immortal way. Your proposal was unanimously agreed by the elders, who nodded one after another, expressing their admiration for your foresight. In the 15th year, Danta officially announced to lower the price of elixirs, charging only the cost price and devoting all its efforts to refining elixirs for the immortal sects. As soon as the news came out, it immediately caused a sensation in the immortal cultivation world, and all the major immortal forces expressed their gratitude. For the first time, the reputation of Danta surpassed that of Dan Valley, and it became the undisputed #1 holy place for alchemy in the world of immortal cultivation. In the 16th year, you finally met the legendary Dan Lioxian. Although he has lived for 100,000 years, he still looks like a 10-year-old child, with a childlike face and white hair, and an immortal demeanor. You took the netherworld ghost fire from him in the name of comprehending the spiritual fire. This green flame is not very hot, but it is like a cancer that burns the soul and bone marrow, making people shudder. In the 18th year, after 2 years of dedicated practice, you finally succeeded in refining the netherworld ghost fire and raised your spiritual roots to the heavenly spiritual root level. At this moment, you have 5 balls of spiritual fire by your side, your spiritual roots have reached the top, and your strength has reached a new level. You feel the surging spiritual power in your body, and your heart is filled with confidence, as if the whole world is in your hands. In the 20th year, you saved Feng Ling sect's leader Lang Yu in Quiping Mountain. With your help, she not only escaped a disaster, but also turned a disaster into a blessing, breaking through the bottleneck and reaching a higher level of cultivation. In order to repay you for saving my life, Lang Yu decided to lead the entire Feng Ling sect to follow you. From now on, you will have another powerful force under your command. In the same year, news spread in the world of immortal cultivation that a genius named Lin Hao had emerged. His cultivation speed was astonishing, and he had reached the Jindan stage in a short period of time, attracting the attention of countless sections. However, compared to you, Lin Hao's brilliance is still dim, and your achievements are like towering mountains, leaving him far behind. After 20 years and 9 months, you feel that your spiritual energy is full and your cultivation is about to break through, so you announce that you will go into seclusion and prepare to reach a higher level. Time flies, and 6 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In the 26th year, you finally broke through and successfully reached the peak of the nascent soul stage. Your strength ranked second in Dan Tower, second only to Dan Lioxian. Looking at the world, you have nothing to fear except for the cultivators in the spiritualization stage. In the 27th year, Xiao Han brought a group of cultivator friends he met in the Triangle region to fulfill the 30-year agreement. He successfully defeated Nalan Yan and avenged his previous defeat, but in doing so he offended the Feng Ling sect and was hunted down. At this time, although Xiao Han had extraordinary talent, his cultivation was only at the peak of foundation building. How could he withstand the wrath of Feng Ling Zone? In the 28th year, you became the new Tower Master of Danta as expected. Dan Valley also expressed its approval of you and sent someone to deliver a precious gift. Various factions across the world responded one after another, and Danta's reputation reached an unprecedented height. In the 30th year, the Ghost Spirit sect finally revealed their trump card, an old demon who had lived for who knows how many years. This old demon is none other than the great elder of the Ghost Spirit sect who died 10,000 years ago. Back then, he intended to ascend to heaven, but was reduced to ashes by the heavenly calamity. Now, he has come back to life and appeared before the world again. When the old demon appeared, his demonic power was overwhelming. Countless immortal sects were frightened and began to retreat. Several hidden gods joined forces to besiege the old demon, but he easily killed them, which was chilling. For a moment, the attacking and defending sides switched sides. In the 31st year, demonic flames were raging, and the cries of ghosts and wolves resounded through the sky. The once prosperous immortal cave has now been reduced to a scorched earth. Among the broken walls and ruins, numerous white bones are exposed to the wind and rain, which is a shocking sight. The evil claws of the Ghost Spirit sect extended to more sects, and wherever they went, people suffered and the land was filled with grief. In the 32nd year, although the immortal forces organized several large-scale counterattacks, however, facing the Ghost Spirit sect's endless bizarre tactics and fearless and crazy attacks, it is still difficult to achieve a decisive victory. Every attack was like a moth flying into a flame, and ended in disastrous failure. The morale of the immortals was low and the people were in panic. Chapter 69, Refining the Ascension Pill. In the 35th year, after years of investigation, the Ghost Spirit sect finally discovered the biggest supporter behind the immortal Deo forces, Danta. It turns out that the reason why the immortal path has been able to compete with the demon path over the years is largely due to the continuous supply of elixirs provided by Danta. In order to completely destroy the resistance of the immortal path, the Ghost Spirit sect turned its attention to Danta. Dark clouds covered the city, threatening to destroy it. The demonic monks surrounded Danta, and the shouts of killing shook the earth. The light of Danta's mountain protection formation flickered, like a candle in the wind, and could go out at any time. In the 36th year, the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder, the old devil who had returned from the dead, personally led the army to break through the Danta's mountain protection formation. Danta Elder Dan, the only one of Danta who had reached the spiritual transformation stage, stepped forward and had an earth-shattering decisive battle with the great elder of the Ghost Spirit sect. The old immortal Dan summoned the Danta's most precious treasure, the 8 snakes' divine light shield. The raging flames transformed into 8 fire snakes, roaring and pouncing towards the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder. The old devil was not in a hurry. He waved his sleeves and a black gas swept out, instantly devouring the 8 fire snakes. The Ghost Spirit sect's great elder smiled slightly and said contemptuously, "How dare you show off your skills in front of an expert?" Just then, you secretly made a move. You have activated your own inheritance, and the sword energy of Master Wanjian is like a brilliant galaxy, cutting through the sky and slashing towards the great elder of the Ghost Spirit sect. The sword energy was so sharp and powerful that a strand of hair from the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder was cut off and slowly fell. "Hey!" The Ghost Spirit sect's great elder looked at you with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "Besides Master Wanjian, there are actually people who can condense a sword infant. The young are truly to be feared." He paused, and then said, "If Master Wanjian came in person, I might still be a little bit afraid, but you are still one step away. After saying this, he will kill you." At the critical moment, several great masters of the God transformation stage from Dan Valley arrived in time and joined forces with Dan Lioxian to fight against the great elder of the Ghost Spirit sect. A great war began, the sky and earth changed color, the sun and moon lost their light. The Ghost Spirit sect's great elder is worthy of being a top-level divine transformation master. He fought 1 against 5 and was not at all at a disadvantage. In a split second, you took a deep breath and unleashed the last of Master Wanjian's sword energy. The true energy in the whole body rushed out like a flood and gathered at the fingertips. A brilliant silver sword energy poured out like the Milky Way in the sky, cutting through the sky and heading straight for the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder. The pupils of the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder suddenly shrank. Obviously he did not expect you to be able to display such a strong sword energy again. He did not dare to neglect it, and quickly offered a black flag to block in front of him. The sword energy collided with the flag, making a deafening noise and stirring up dust all over the sky. When the smoke and dust cleared, a deep sword mark appeared on the black flag, and the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder showed a look of shock on his face. "Good boy, you actually have such a trump card." A trace of fear flashed in his eyes, and he looked at you deeply, then waved his hand and led the Ghost Spirit sect disciples to evacuate quickly. In the 40th year, Danta experienced a rare period of peace. Because it defeated the Ghost Spirit sect, the immortal monks saw the dawn of victory. For a time, Danta was sought after by countless monks. In the 42nd year, the peaceful days were broken again. The Ghost Spirit sect's great elder led the Ghost Spirit sect's disciples. They actually took advantage of the cover of night to launch a sneak attack on Danta. The whereabouts of Dan Lioxian disappeared and his life or death is unknown. The Fire Lord died in battle, and thousands of Danta disciples suffered heavy casualties. For a moment, the whole Danta was in chaos and the people were in panic. The Dan Master found you and said solemnly that the Dan Elder Immortal was related to the Dan Tower's long-term plan of ascending to heaven, and he must let you bring the Dan Elder Immortal back. In the 45th year, Yu once again called on the Heavenly Sword Lord, and united with Dan Valley and several other forces to form a massive army of cultivators, and marched towards the Ghost Spirit sect. In the 48th year, after several years of fierce fighting with the demons, the power of the immortals finally became equal to that of the demons once again. Just when the immortal monks attacked the Ghost Spirit sect's territory, the Ghost Spirit sect's great elder appeared again. He fought alone against many enemies and started a shocking battle with several great masters in the god transformation stage of Dan Valley. Several great masters of the Danta stage joined forces to besiege the city, but were still defeated. At the critical moment, the Heavenly Sword God joined the battle and managed to stabilize the situation. In the 49th year, the war entered a white-hot stage. Lord Tianjian suddenly summoned out a brilliant silver sword energy, which was exactly the sword energy inherited from Master Wanjian that you gave him all those years ago. This sword energy contained the lifelong sword skills of Master Wanjian. When wielded by Lord Tianjian, a powerful being in the god transformation stage, its power was naturally infinite, and it severely injured the great elder of the Ghost Spirit sect in an instant. A generation of demon fell. Before he died, he roared unwillingly. He said he would come back. In the 50th year, you led the monks to attack the Ghost Spirit sect's lair. After a long search, you finally found Dan Lioxian. However, at this time, Dan Lioxian had lost all his cultivation, and his body was emaciated, and he could only barely maintain his human form. In the 62nd year, the sweet fragrance of osmanthus fills the air, refreshing the heart. On this day, auspicious clouds swirled over the Dan pagoda, purple air rose from the east, and there was faint sound of celestial music. Sitting cross-legged on the top floor of the Dan tower, Dan Lioxian had a peaceful face and a solemn appearance, like an ancient Buddha. He slowly opened his eyes and glanced at everyone present, his eyes full of kindness and reluctance. Finally, his eyes fell on you. He smiled slightly and nodded. The next moment, his body began to radiate a dazzling light, which gradually condensed and eventually turned into a crystal-clear elixir that exuded a rich fragrance. The elixir was suspended in the air, rotating slowly, like a rising sun, illuminating the entire elixir tower. The Danzun took the elixir with a solemn look and sighed, Dan Lioxian, this is an elixir that has survived for 100,000 years. Now the path to ascension is blocked. The only way to break the shackles of ascension and find a way to ascension for cultivators like us is to refine it into an ascension pill. He paused, turned his gaze to you, and told you solemnly, originally, he wanted Xiao Han to complete this task, but Xiao Han's temperament is unstable now and he might not be able to do it. This matter is of great importance, and I can only entrust it to you. In the 65th year, deep in the Dan Tower, in a secret alchemy room, the alchemy fire was burning, reflecting the focused faces of you and Dan Zun. After 3 years of careful preparation, Dan Zun finally condensed a new body with your help. He slowly opened his eyes, a gleam of light flashing in them, and his new body was full of vitality, representing a new life. Chapter 75 Colored Fire Lotus. In the 68th year, in order to refine the Ascension Pill, you and the Pill Master began to build a new pill furnace. This is a huge project that requires countless rare materials and complex refining techniques. You sent your disciples to travel all over the famous mountains and rivers, looking for natural materials and treasures, and you constantly refined and carved them day and night, pouring all your life's learning into this alchemy furnace. In the 72nd year, you received news from Fatty that Xiao Han found a spiritual fire called Blue Sea Flame Heart in the deep sea. With the help of the power of the spiritual fire, he broke through to the Jindan stage in one fell swoop. He took this opportunity to integrate the forces of the entire triangle area. You know very well that you cannot let Xiao Han develop peacefully, so you immediately order Pangda to send secret agents to use the elixir to win over the various forces in the Triangle region and create a confrontation with Xiao Han. In the 75th year, after 3 years of hard work, Fatty finally established a powerful force in the Triangle region and competed with Xiao Han. In the 80th year, Lin Hao broke through to the peak of the nascent soul realm. Announced to the world, claiming that your mother had used despicable means to extract his spiritual roots, and that he had gone through untold hardships and finally condensed his spiritual roots again. As soon as these words came out, the entire cultivation world was in an uproar, and countless cultivators cast questioning eyes on you. Tianxiandao Palace even publicly accused you, and for a time, you became the target of public criticism. In the 81st year, Danta and Dan Valley cleared your name at the same time. The elder of Dan Valley guarantees with the reputation of Danta that your spiritual roots have nothing to do with Lin Hao. Dan Zun cursed the most harshly, saying that all this was Lin Hao's unwarranted attempt to smear your image. Because in the eyes of Dan Zun, you were just a low-grade mixed spiritual root in the beginning, and you reached this stage through practicing the flame spirit technique. At the same time, Fengling sect's leader Lang Yu, Ziyun sect's leader Ziyun Lazu, and Baiyun Alliance's leader Taoist Baiyun also came forward to testify for you. Tell your stories of being honest, kind, and helpful to overturn Lin Hao's slander against you. Public opinion begins to reverse. In the 82nd year, Lin Hao challenged you. You estimated the fighting power of the two and accepted the challenge without hesitation. In May of the 82nd year, in the wild land, countless monks gathered, waiting for this unprecedented battle. On one side is the reincarnation of the world-famous ancient swordsman, you. On the other side is Lin Hao, the leader of the Bushan Alliance who is at the peak of his career. In July, the war entered a fierce stage. Lin Hao displayed his supreme combat body, shining with golden light, like a god descending to earth. You condense the sword infant, transform it into a dazzling sword light, and collide with it. The sword energy was everywhere, the golden light was radiating, and the wild land was trembling. The two sides fought for several months without a clear winner. Finally, you condense 5 kinds of spiritual fire into a huge and gorgeous 5-colored fire lotus. The fire lotus blossomed, transforming into a boundless sea of fire, devouring everything within 1,000 miles. The moment the 5-colored fire lotus exploded, Lin Hao's figure was engulfed by the flames. When the flames died down, a charred figure was revealed. It was Lin Hao. He knelt on one knee, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth, his face as pale as paper, obviously seriously injured. However, there was no sign of surrender in his eyes. Instead, there was a burning rage. You did not pursue the victory, but slowly fell down, looked at Lin Hao with a complicated expression, sighed and said, "Lin Hao, you and I are born from the same roots, why are you so anxious to hurt me? I didn't know what happened back then. I have been born with low-grade mixed spiritual roots since I was young, and I have come this far through my own efforts. Why has it come to this between you and me, brothers?" You paused, with a hint of sadness in your tone. "Do we have to fight to the death before we give up?" Your voice echoed in the empty wilderness, reaching the ears of every monk watching the battle. Everyone was moved by your words and started talking about it. Some people believe in your sincerity, think you are a gentleman, and are upright, so even if you defeat Lin Hao, you still choose to let him go. For a moment, everyone began to blame Lin Hao, saying that he was petty and a mean person. You know in your heart that you are not saying this to Lin Hao, but to mansion behind him. The mansion is what you really fear. As long as the mansion does not take action, you have nothing to fear. Lin Hao did not fight you again, but chose to retreat back to the wilderness forest village. The 85th year. Time flies, and 3 years have passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 years, you have devoted all your energy to refining the alchemy furnace. By gathering the power of the entire Dan Tower and consuming countless natural treasures, Dan Zun's alchemy furnace was finally upgraded from the level of a top-grade magic weapon to the level of a top-grade magic weapon. The new alchemy furnace glowed with brilliance, emitting powerful spiritual energy fluctuations, enough to withstand the terrifying energy required to refine the ascension pill. In the 86th year, the fragrance of elixir filled the air and purple air rose from the east. You and the alchemy master are sitting face to face in the alchemy room on the top floor of the alchemy tower. In front of you is the alchemy furnace that has been carefully refined for 3 years and is now brand new. The surface of the alchemy furnace is engraved with complex runes, shining with a faint golden light, as if it contains endless mysteries. The two of you hold your breath, concentrate, and each make hand gestures to inject pure spiritual energy into the alchemy furnace. Various rare medicinal materials were thrown into the furnace one by one, gradually melting in the blazing fire, and emitting a strange aroma. The process of refining the ascension pill is long and arduous, and any mistake will result in failure. The two of you dare not slack off for even a moment, and concentrate on controlling the temperature and the fusion of the herbs. In the 120th year, Pangda's secret agents have spread like a spider web to every corner of the world of immortal cultivation. From bustling cities to remote mountains and wilderness, there is almost no place they cannot penetrate. They disguise themselves in various identities, collect various intelligence, and pass the information to you continuously. However, the Bushan alliance was like an iron barrel and could never be broken through. Every time someone was sent to infiltrate, they would be quickly discovered and eliminated, as if there were a pair of invisible eyes secretly monitoring everything. You speculate that the Bulletin Tian League should have some special magic weapon that can calculate or detect intruders, which makes you feel very troubled. In the 160th year, Fatta finally caught a clue. He discovered that the Bushan League had secretly built a huge altar in the wilderness, which was grand in scale and majestic. The area around the altar is heavily guarded, and anyone who approaches will be ruthlessly killed. Fatta's spies can't get close, they can only observe from a distance and quickly convey the news to you. You feel a little uneasy in your heart, wondering what the purpose of building this altar is. In the 220th year, you accidentally met a spiritual cultivator named Dan Yangzi during your travels. Dan Yangzi is proficient in alchemy and we feel like old friends from the first sight. The two of you often discussed the Dao of alchemy together, exchanged experiences, and gradually became close friends who could talk about anything. From him, you learned many ancient recipes for elixirs that you had never seen before, which further improved your elixir-making skills. Chapter 71, Fateful Battle. In the 300th year, your friendship with Dan Yangzi has deepened. During a long conversation, Dan Yangzi revealed a shocking secret to you. The reason why this world cannot ascend is because the ascension channel is blocked by the upper realm. This news is like a bolt from the blue, shocking you to no end. In the 372nd year, you heard that Xiao Han had broken through to the nascent soul stage, and you felt mixed emotions. Over the years, you have secretly obstructed and attacked Xiao Han in various ways, making it difficult for him to walk on the path of cultivation. 375th year, Xiao Han's rapid growth made you feel threatened. You were worried that he would catch up with you. So you made an important decision: give up sword training, concentrate on practicing alchemy, and strive to quickly break through the current realm. In the 380th year, you transformed the sword infant and embarked on the path of alchemy again. You will devote all your energy to cultivation, constantly delve into it, and elevate your realm. In the 430th year, you finally broke through to the spiritual transformation stage, but it was just an ordinary spiritual transformation, not the sword infant spiritual transformation. Your sword infant no longer exists. In the 560th year, Xiao Han also broke through to the spiritual transformation realm, standing at the same level as you. When you heard the news, you couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Although you have focused on alchemy over the years and your cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds, Xiao Han's talent and strength always make you feel intimidated. He is like a shadow destined for your life, lingering and indelible. In the 570th year, Xiao Han took the initiative to challenge you. In this battle, you two engaged in an earth-shattering showdown over the East China Sea. Sword energy is everywhere, elixir fire fills the sky, and the entire sea is turned upside down by the aftermath of your battle. In the end, you relied on your rich combat experience and superb combat attainments to be slightly better and injure Xiao Han. In the 580th year, Xiao Han seeks revenge on you again. This time, he obviously learned from his last failure and became much stronger. He fought with you for 3 days and 3 nights, and finally you were evenly matched. In the 590th year, Xiao Han came to visit again. This battle is more intense than any previous one. You try your best and use all your skills, but you can only barely remain undefeated. Xiao Han's sword intent is sharp and murderous, as if it wants to devour you completely. You know in your heart that if you continue like this, you will be defeated by him sooner or later. In the 600th year, you realized that you couldn't drag it on any longer. Xiao Han's progress is too fast. You must ascend as soon as possible to completely get rid of his entanglement. So you made up your mind and decided to take the risk and go to the East China Sea to transcend the calamity and ascend to heaven. In the 601st year, you came to a cave on an isolated island in the East China Sea, ready to take the ascension pill and ascend to heaven in one fell swoop. You sit cross-legged, silently practicing the technique, adjusting your state to the peak. Just as you were about to swallow the ascension pill, a frightening demonic energy suddenly swept in from the southwest. The great elder of the demonic ghost spirit sect, who had disappeared for hundreds of years, once again reappeared. Suddenly, the situation changed drastically, and all the immortal sects were in danger. He led the ghost spirit sect's elite disciples to raid several important strongholds of the Righteous Alliance, causing huge casualties. For a time, the immortals retreated and the demons were rampant. You can't figure out why the ghost spirit sect's ancestor would come back again after only 500 or 600 years. There seems to be a mystery hidden behind this that puzzles you. In the 602nd year, you put your ascension plan on hold and decided to wait and see. Ascension is important, but you also have to choose the right time. If you act rashly, you may fail. 610 years, after more than 10 years of war, the demons have occupied a large area of the immortal cultivation world, and the immortal sects can only shrink into a corner and struggle to hold on. The power of the ghost spirit sect's grand elder is as overbearing as ever. Not only is his cultivation level unfathomable, but he is also full of tricks, making it hard to guard against him. You secretly observe all this, and you feel increasingly uneasy. In the 650th year, just when the evil ways were about to rule the entire world of immortal cultivation, Xiao Han emerged with great force. He was like a dazzling ray of light, breaking through the darkness that enveloped the world of immortal cultivation. Xiao Han defeated several masters of the ghost spirit sect one after another with the force of thunder, and finally launched a shocking decisive battle with the ghost spirit sect's grand elder. In that battle, the sun and moon lost their light, the sky and earth changed color, and the entire world of immortal cultivation was shaken. In the end, Xiao Han relied on his extraordinary talent to defeat the great elder of the ghost spirit sect and eventually killed him. At this point, the world of immortal cultivation, which had been ruled by the devil for decades, once again returned to the hands of the immortals. Xiao Han was therefore regarded as a savior by the world and gained the love and admiration of countless people. And you have been hiding in a cave on an isolated island overseas, watching all this silently. You have mixed feelings, but you still don't come out, wanting to see how things will develop in the end. In the 660th year, you lost all contact with Fat D Angel and the spy. You don't know whether they are alive or dead, and you don't know how many people can survive in this chaotic world. You feel more lonely and confused than ever before. In the 670th year, good friend Dan Yangzi returned home seriously injured. When he saw you, his eyes were complicated, with relief and regret. He tells you that he sees no hope of ascending, and the people of this world also see no hope of ascending. You laughed and told him not to worry, because someone would ascend soon. Dan Yangzi said with a wry smile, "Those who can ascend are not from this world." You are confused by this, but Dan Yangzi did not give you any further explanation, only saying that he does not see hope, and that the cultivators in this world do not see hope. He left, leaving you alone, struggling in confusion and bewilderment. In the 700th year, you searched the wilderness for several years, trekking through steep mountains and deep canyons, but you still couldn't find any trace of Lin Hao and Man Shen. They seemed to have evaporated from the face of the earth, disappearing without a trace. You can't help but wonder, have they left this world? In the 740th year, Xiao Han, with his powerful strength and outstanding leadership skills, integrated the entire immortal power and became the leader of the immortal cultivation world. He issued a series of new decrees, rebuilt the order destroyed by the demonic ways, and vigorously supported the younger generation of cultivators, making the world of cultivation flourish. In the 780th year, over the East China Sea, the wind and clouds suddenly changed, with lightning and thunder. A huge pillar of fire shot up into the sky, illuminating the entire night sky. In the pillar of fire, a familiar figure stood proudly, like a god descending from heaven. It was Xiao Han. He was wearing golden armor, holding a magic sword, and emitting a dazzling light. The rumbling sound of thunder resounded throughout the heaven and earth, and the power of thunder turned into a huge hammer of 10,000 pounds, hitting Xiao Han fiercely. Xiao Han stood still, letting the thunder rage. His eyes were firm, as if he was ready to fight against the sky. This earth-shaking scene lasted for several months, and the entire world of immortal cultivation was paying attention to this tribulation and ascension. A few months later, the thunder gradually subsided, the wind and clouds dissipated, and Xiao Han's figure disappeared. Chapter 72, Dead Silence. You immediately rushed to the place where Xiao Han had transcended the tribulation, but found that it was empty, without any remains, nor any traces to indicate whether Xiao Han had successfully ascended. You can't help but fall into deep thought, could it be that Xiao Han really failed? In the 800 years, your cultivation has stagnated at the early stage of spirit transformation. No matter how hard you try, you cannot make any further progress. You begin to doubt your choice. Perhaps Dan Yangzi is right. This world has lost the hope of ascension. In the 900th year, you finally realized that transforming the sword infant was the biggest mistake you made on your path of cultivation. The way of sword cultivation is to move forward courageously and show your sharp edge. In order to pursue a rapid breakthrough in the Dao of alchemy, you gave up the determination of the Dao of sword, which ultimately damaged your foundation and caused your cultivation to stagnate. In the first 1,000 years, you are still in the early stage of transformation. You know that nothing will change if you continue to wait. You decide to give it a try, take the ascension pill, and ascend to the upper realm. In the 1001st year, you came to an isolated island overseas, sat cross-legged, and took out the ascension pill that you had treasured for a long time. You take a deep breath and swallow the ascension pill. After swallowing the ascension pill, within a radius of 10,000 miles, there was a sudden burst of lightning, as bright as day. You suddenly looked up, only to see dark clouds rolling overhead, lightning and thunder, and a huge suction force pulling you upwards, causing your clothes to rustle. You know, the time of ascension has finally come. You took one last look at this familiar world. There was no fear of the unknown in your eyes, only endless freedom and relief, as if you had unloaded 1,000 years of burden. At this moment, you vaguely saw a familiar figure in the distance, looking at you in surprise. Dan Yangzi. It's him. But today he is wearing a black robe, and his face has a fierce look that has never been seen before. He is completely different from the immortal-like appearance in your memory. Before you can think about it, your body continues to rise and finally disappears into the vast sky. Only Dan Yangzi was left standing outside the thunder, looking at the direction you disappeared with a complicated expression. His lips moved, as if he was saying something, but you couldn't hear him anymore. These lightning bolts did not hurt you. Instead, they wrapped you up like a protective net. You felt that some strange changes were happening in your body. A year later, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky, an array of colorful light poured out from it, slowly lifting you up and flying towards the crack. In a daze, you came to a strange world. However, since your cultivation base is only at the initial stage of spiritual transformation, it is not enough to support the strong pressure of ascension. By the time you ascend, the spiritual energy in your body has already been exhausted. At this moment, you are like an ordinary mortal, weak and powerless. You want to meditate to restore your spiritual power, but you are horrified to find that there is not a trace of spiritual energy here. Fortunately, you have trained your body, and your physical strength far exceeds that of other immortal cultivators, so you did not die on the spot. In the 1003rd year, you finally stood up tremblingly and took a close look at this strange world for the first time. All I could see was desolate, without a trace of spiritual energy, as if I were in a dead and silent place. Under your feet is a huge altar, built of unknown black rocks, with ancient and mysterious runes all over the surface. In the center of the altar is a bottomless abyss. The darkness seems to swallow everything, making people shudder. If you guessed correctly, you should have ascended from this abyss, but why did you come to such a place without spiritual energy? Doubt and fear surged into my heart like a tide. You drag your weak body and struggle to explore around the altar. Outside the altar is a barren mountain range with no grass and no signs of life. The mountain peaks are as steep as if they were cut by a knife or an axe, with jagged rocks, which look even more hideous in the dim light. The wind whistled past, stirring up gusts of dust and making sounds like ghosts crying and wolves howling, which looked extremely desolate. You walked for more than half a year and found a dried skeleton in a pile of rubble. The skeleton has long been weathered, making it difficult to identify its identity and age, but judging from the density of the bones and the residual fluctuations of magic power, he must have been a cultivator with profound cultivation when he was alive, at least above the nascent soul stage. This makes you feel even more depressed. Is this person at the intersection an ascendant? In the 1004th year, you discovered a huge stone tablet while climbing over a barren mountain. The stone tablet towered into the sky, with several shocking words engraved on its surface. What can I do? What can I do? This road is blocked. Signed, Tian Xian Dao Palace King Yung Xiao. These words seem to carry endless despair and sadness, deeply hurting your heart. You searched carefully around the stone tablet and found a storage ring, but unfortunately the ring had already weathered and most of the items inside had turned to ashes. But you still found a flying sword with a gleaming aura. Although it has fallen from a top-grade magic weapon to a lower-grade one, it is still a rare treasure for you. In the 1005th year, you found another skeleton sitting cross-legged. His clothes and magic weapons had all weathered away, leaving only the white bones, silently telling of his former glory and ultimate sadness. In the 1006th year, you were horrified to find that your energy and spirit had rapidly declined in the past few years, as if your vitality was being slowly devoured by this dead world. Without spiritual energy replenishment, your body becomes weaker and weaker, and the physical strength that you once prided yourself on also begins to gradually decline. In the 1008th year, you realized in despair that in this spiritual world, you could not practice at all, nor could you replenish your consumed energy. The shadow of death looms over you, and you don't know how long you can hold on. In the 1001st year, your energy and spirit dissipated, and you died. Simulation ends. Start calculating this reward. You have raised your cultivation to the early stage of the spiritualization in this simulation. You can get a reward once. Note, you are the first to ascend to another world and will receive 2 additional rewards. You can get 3 of them in the following rewards. 1. The Peak of Sword Infant's Cultivation. 2. A top-grade alchemy furnace. 3. This simulation experience. 4th, low-grade magic weapon Fire Phoenix Sword. 5. Ordinary initial stage of transformation into a god. Number of simulations remaining, 0. The simulation ended, and Lin Yi looked at the panel for a long time without saying a word. In this simulation, he ascended. Although he ascended to a dead world without spiritual energy, he could not escape death in the end. He couldn't say he was happy because he didn't see a way out in that world. After a long while, he slowly stood up and walked out of the cave. The warm sunshine shone on him, the fresh air blew on his face, and the market at the foot of the mountain was bustling with wandering cultivators, with the sounds of hawking and bargaining rising one after another. It was in stark contrast to the cold text in the simulation. It's better for them. They don't know much, so they don't have to worry about anything. Chapter 73 Secret Planning. Senior. Fat de saw Lin Yi suddenly come out of isolation, and came over happily. The fat body trembled, and the flattering look on his face became even more intense. Although more than 1,000 years passed in the simulation, only one day passed in reality. After a day, Fat de did not fully accept Lin Yi's identity as his master. The reason why he was afraid of Lin Yi was mainly because of the control of the three corpses brain pill. Lin Yi nodded slightly, his eyes fell on Fat de, and he unconsciously recalled the contents of the simulator. In the simulation, Fat de was an important partner in his journey to becoming an immortal and provided him with a lot of help. Eventually, he lost contact, probably because he was harmed by the simulated Xiao Han. Fat de Urdu, Lin Yi spoke slowly, with a barely perceptible concern in his tone. You've been doing well recently, so I'm going to give you a task. Seeing Fat de's puzzled expression, Lin Yi smiled. I feel it is necessary to give the other person some reassurance. After all, this fat guy is timid and cowardly. Without sufficient motivation, it would be difficult to complete the task. Don't worry or overthink it. I am an alchemist. Although I control you. But as long as you don't do anything to harm me, this erysipelas will never break out, so you can rest assured. When Fatty heard this, a forced smile appeared on his fat face, but a hint of barely perceptible fear flashed across his eyes. He nodded repeatedly and said, No, no, I will do whatever the senior asks me to do. This is my honor. How can I worry? Although he said that, Fat de was still very worried. Until now, he still hasn't figured out Lin Yi's background and preferences. He was still very scared of the person who caught him and poisoned him. Although Lin Yi said this, he was still very worried. Fine beads of sweat oozed out of his forehead, and his fat hands rubbed unconsciously. Lin Yi looked at Fat de's expression and knew that he did not completely trust her. Come to think of it, if other people controlled you without asking any questions, you might also become worried. It is human nature to have other thoughts and resentment in your heart. Then he took out a storage ring, handed it to Fat de and said, There are 200,000 spirit stones here. You can use them as startup capital to set up a secret force. Its main task is to detect various rumors in the world of immortal cultivation and news about spirit fire. Fat de took the storage ring with trembling hands and felt the abundant spiritual energy contained in it. There was a flash of greed in his eyes, but he immediately suppressed it and patted his chest to show that he would be able to do his job conscientiously. Lin Yi nodded and said, I'm at ease with you. After sending Fatty away, Lin Yi returned to the cave, sat cross-legged, and began to think about the model. But now he has not received the simulation reward. Because he has concerns. Lin Yi sat cross-legged on the futon in the cave, with a lot of thoughts in his mind. The reward for reaching the spiritual transformation stage is indeed tempting. You can reach the top in one step and become the top existence in this world. However, this is like a steep mountain. After reaching the top, all that remains is the despair of having no way out. How should I continue my spiritual practice in the future? The thought gnawed at his heart like a maggot. What confused him even more was the ascension in this simulation. What exactly is that strange space without any spiritual energy? Where did Xiao Han go after he ascended to heaven? Did he also enter that space? If this is true, then is he also trapped there like himself, unable to move forward? Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart sank, and an inexplicable sense of uneasiness arose. Danyang's words made him even more puzzled. Those who can ascend are not from this world. These words echoed in his mind again and again. Xiao Han was obviously a native of Wuden town and had a lot of grudges with me, so how could he not be from this world? Could it be? Could it be that Xiao Han is also a time traveler like himself? This thought flashed through Lin Yi's mind like a bolt of lightning. It suddenly reminded him of the immortal cultivation novel that was popular on the internet in his previous life. Isn't the protagonist in the story a time traveler? Could this be what Danyangzi was referring to? But how did he know that Xiao Han was a time traveler? Lin Yi took a breath and felt a chill on his back. Too many questions swirled in his mind, making him feel like his brain was as confused as paste. He rubbed his temples hard, trying to sort out his chaotic thoughts. I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. Lin Yi muttered to himself, scratching his hair irritably. Perhaps, only when the secret power established by Fatda develops can these mysteries be slowly solved. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. The most important thing now is to improve your strength. Only with strong enough strength can you survive in this crisis-ridden world and finally find answers to all problems. Looking at the simulation options this time, Lin Yi sighed secretly. It would be great if I could bring back that ascension pill, but unfortunately I had already swallowed it in the simulation, so I naturally cannot bring it back to reality. But thankfully, there are actually 3 rewards this time. Originally there should have been only one option, but after ascension, 2 additional items were awarded, plus a guaranteed reward, so there are 3 options in total. Lin Yi's eyes swept across the options on the simulation panel. 1. The Peak of Sword Infant's Cultivation. 2. A top-grade alchemy furnace. 3. This simulation experience. 4th, low-grade magic weapon Fire Phoenix Sword. 5. Ordinary initial stage of transformation into a god. He weighed the 1st and 5th options over and over again. No one can refuse a breakthrough in realm, but this breakthrough made him hesitate. In the simulation, he remained in the early stages for hundreds of years after breaking through the spirit transformation stage, and was eventually caught up by Xiao Han. Besides, in reality he has only been practicing for less than 10 days, so he has plenty of time. Thinking of this, Lin Yi made a decision in his heart. He decided to temporarily give up the tempting initial stage of the spiritual transformation cultivation, and chose to proceed step by step and continue on the path of sword cultivation. Because he has more time than others. In reality, it may only be a day or 2, but in simulation, it may be thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Therefore, choosing the right path is crucial. Lin Yi's eyes fell on 1. Sword Infant Peak Cultivation. And he thought to himself, that's it. He stretched out his finger and lightly touched the first option on the simulation panel. Buzz! A stream of pure energy instantly surged into his body, filling his limbs, bones, and meridians. Lin Yi felt refreshed, as if soaking in a hot spring. Every pore opened up, greedily absorbing the energy. The true energy in his body was like a surging river, surging and constantly hitting the bottleneck. Boom! With a muffled sound, Lin Yi felt as if something in his body was broken, and a powerful force gushed out from his body, filling the entire cave. At this moment, his cultivation level broke through to the peak of Sword Infant. Chapter 74, 1000 Years of Experience. In the simulation, both the Heavenly Sword God and the Ghost Spirit Sex Great Elder had expressed their amazement at the Sword Infant he had condensed. I think its potential is extraordinary and far beyond this. This made Lin Yi more determined to pursue the path of sword cultivation. He believed that with this powerful Sword Infant, he could overcome difficulties. He can also break through to the god transformation stage as a sword cultivator and achieve unparalleled combat power. This time, Lin Yi's cultivation level was raised from the late Sword Infant stage to the peak Sword Infant stage. Feeling the true energy surging in his body, he seemed to have touched the threshold of the spirit transformation stage. A strong sense of self-confidence arose spontaneously, and he believed that even if he were to face an ordinary cultivator in the early stage of the spiritualization realm, he would still be able to fight. This is not only due to the improvement of strength, but also due to the indomitable and courageous spirit of the sword cultivator. After choosing the peak level of sword infant cultivation, Lin Yi has two more chances to choose. He first ruled out the top-grade alchemy furnace. Although everyone wants a good alchemy furnace, the top-grade magic furnace in his hand is enough, so there is no need to pursue the ultimate now. After all, he was going to refine the Ascension Elixir right away, and the old Immortal Dan was still alive and well. Therefore, the Millennium Simulation Experience became Lin Yi's inevitable choice. I choose Simulated Experience. The system prompt sounded, ding, you need to pay 1000 medium-grade spirit stones to select this option. 1000 middle-grade spirit stones. Lin Yi frowned slightly. It seemed that after the simulator was upgraded, there were more restrictions. He then set off for Wanbao Pavilion. He also sold the pills he had on him in exchange for some mid-grade spirit stones. Back in the cave, Lin Yi sat cross-legged, took a deep breath, and calmed his excitement. After the simulator was upgraded, it actually required 1000 medium-grade spirit stones to view the 1000-year simulation experience. This price was really not cheap. However, in order to improve his strength faster, this amount of spirit stones is nothing to him. He paid the spirit stones without hesitation and chose the simulated experience. I choose simulated experience. As soon as the words fell, a vast stream of information instantly poured into Lin Yi's mind. Countless fragments of memory shone like stars, interweaving into a magnificent picture. In the simulated 1000 years, he traveled the world with a sword, and the light of his sword chilled the 19 continents. He once led the Baiun Alliance to fight against the invasion of the Guiling sect, fought his way through the mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and finally slew countless old demons of the Guiling sect with his sword. He once lived in seclusion in the mountains, devoted himself to practicing swordsmanship, and comprehended the true meaning of the sword. Countless life and death battles made his understanding of the way of the sword more profound and his sword intent more fierce. He had sparred with various masters, made friends with swords, and honed his swordsmanship and improved his swordsmanship through repeated confrontations. He also transformed himself into a master of alchemy, refining various elixirs in the Dan Tower, saving lives and healing the wounded. He once refined the legendary heaven-repairing pill, which attracted countless forces to fight for it, but in the end he gave it to an ordinary mortal. He also went deep into dangerous places to search for natural treasures and refine magical weapons. He once went deep into the Dan Tower to collect the netherworld ghost fire, which allowed his spiritual roots to take a step further and reach the heavenly spiritual root level. The experience of the Millennium Simulation unfolded in his mind like an epic, allowing him to experience different lives, different identities, and different destinies. Lin Yi slowly opened his eyes, wisdom gleaming in them. Memories of thousands of years of simulation came flooding back, every detail so clear it was like experiencing it in person. Lin Yi felt as if his soul had been drifting in the long river of time for thousands of years, witnessing the vicissitudes of life and the passage of time. He closed his eyes and could still feel the scene of him chatting and laughing with Dan Yangzi. The white-haired old man, his kind face, and the discussion between the two about alchemy, every word echoed clearly in my ears. He still remembered the scene when he had a sword fight with the Lord of Heavenly Sword. The sharp sword energy and the mysterious sword intent still made him tremble with fear. The battle with Lin Hao was still fresh in his memory. Lin Hao's terrifying fighting body, his strange martial arts, and the earth-shaking battle between the two were all vividly remembered. There was also the life and death battle with Xiao Han, the sword lights flying all over the sky, the deafening roar, and the strong murderous intent between the two, which still makes him feel scared. Even the experiences after ascension appeared clearly in his mind. There was total silence all around, with no signs of life. And the bones buried deep in the desert are still fresh in his memory. It seemed as if he had really lived for 1000 years, experienced countless hardships and challenges, finally ascended to heaven, and finally died there. When Lin Yi opened his eyes again, they were full of vicissitudes and wisdom. He felt that he was no longer the same person he used to be, but had gone through the baptism of thousands of years, been reborn and reborn. He stretched out his hand and looked at his palm, which felt so strange, yet so familiar. He knew that he already had the experience and insights gained from thousands of years of cultivation, which would be his greatest support in his future journey of cultivating immortals. Lin Yi stood up and walked to the alchemy furnace, recalling the ancient alchemy recipe given by Dan Yangzi, which was originally just a memory that should not exist. Now, in his eyes, it has become clear and easy to understand. Each pill recipe contains profound knowledge of alchemy. He could even feel Dan Yangzi's state of mind when he was refining these pills. Dan Yangzi was once by his side, and personally explained the knowledge of alchemy to him, which also became his memory. Call. Lin Yi took a deep breath and began to refine the elixir. His movements were smooth and seamless, as if he had refined it countless times. The flames in the alchemy furnace were burning fiercely, and the aroma of medicinal herbs filled the entire cave. Lin Yi became very determined at this moment. Now he is a master of alchemy with thousands of years of experience. He believed that his current understanding was no less than that of Dan Zun. Even more than what Master Dan understood. Cool. When you see the last option, there is actually no need to think too much about it. He had to have that sword. Although it is only a low-grade magic weapon now, a low-grade magic weapon is still a magic weapon, not to mention that this sword was once a top-grade one. I guess with careful practice, it might be possible to restore it to its heyday. Lin Yi is now an old monster in the nascent soul stage, but he is actually using a flying sword of the spiritual weapon level, which is simply outrageous. Moreover, this spiritual weapon was stolen and has no background at all. Thinking of this, he chose the lower grade magic weapon, the Fire Phoenix sword, without hesitation. After paying 1,000 medium-grade spirit stones, there was a fiery red flying sword in Lin Yi's hand. The sword was red in color, with a sharp edge and faint traces of flames emerging on it, like a flaming phoenix spreading its wings ready to fly. Holding it in his hand, he could clearly feel the warmth coming from the sword, as if he was holding a ball of fire. Chapter 75, Just for Thoughts to Come. This sword actually has fire attributes, which is very consistent with its own attributes. Lin Yi looked at the Fire Phoenix sword in his hand with satisfaction, secretly rejoicing in his heart. Tianxian Dao Palace. He whispered, a deep look in his eyes. He held the Fire Phoenix sword in his hand. The hilt felt warm and delicate to the touch. 2 ancient seal characters are engraved on the hilt of the sword, Fire Phoenix. The 2 characters were written in a vigorous and powerful style, revealing a sharp sword intent that seemed to be about to break through the handle. Lin Yi gently stroked the sword, speculating secretly in his heart. This sword was definitely not simple at the time. The sword body was as red as fire, with faint traces of flames emerging, like a flaming phoenix spreading its wings ready to fly. He slowly injected a trace of sword energy, and the Fire Phoenix's word immediately made a crisp sword sound, and the sword body trembled slightly, as if responding to his call. A warm breath passed from the hilt of the sword into his palm, making him feel comfortable. As the sword force was continuously injected, the sound of the Fire Phoenix sword became louder and louder, and the sword body began to vibrate violently. A powerful sword intent emanated from the sword, filling the entire cave, causing Lin Yi to feel a palpitation. Finally, it turned into a stream of red light, circling around him. Sometimes it chirps loudly, sometimes it sings softly, as if expressing its joy. Lin Yi knew that this was the Fire Phoenix sword's way of communicating with him, expressing its recognition of its new master. I didn't expect him to recognize his master so quickly. Lin Yi was secretly surprised. He originally thought that it would take some effort to make this magic-level flying sword recognize its master. Unexpectedly, with just a trace of sword energy injected into it, the Fire Phoenix sword would take the initiative to recognize him as its master. It seems that this sword is indeed destined for him. He could feel that this was partly due to the fact that he had condensed the sword infant, and could refine any sword weapon very quickly and easily. Secondly, he has now reached the peak of the nascent soul stage, so refining a low-grade magic weapon is naturally a piece of cake for him. The more important reason is that this sword was simulated through a simulator. Until now, Lin Yi still doesn't know what level the simulator is, but this thing is definitely very powerful. 1,000 medium-grade spirit stones are equivalent to 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. The price of a low-grade magic weapon is usually between 300,000 and 500,000 low-grade spirit stones. Considering that this Fire Phoenix sword was once a top-grade magic weapon, even if its grade has dropped, the material is still precious, so Lin Yi feels that this deal is not a loss. He remembered that in the simulation, the Yellow Springs Demon map had been sold for 80,000 spirit stones in Sangxian City, and he felt that it was not a loss at the time. Since the production cost of magic weapons is lower than that of immortal weapons, it is normal that the price is low. Magical weapons like the 10,000 Souls banner can be made by simply refining a flagpole and then slaughtering mortals. However, the magical weapons of immortality require more time and energy. Lin Yi's mind moved, and the Fire Phoenix sword made a crisp cry, turning into a stream of red light and instantly merged into his body. After walking out of the cave, he raised his head and looked towards the north, with a determined light in his eyes. This time, he is going to do something big. Then his figure flashed, turned into a stream of light, and disappeared into the sky. The wind swept away all the clouds, leaving only a few fallen leaves spinning silently in the air. 2 days later, he finally arrived at the place where his predecessor had suffered humiliation, Tianxian Taoist Palace. Standing above the Tianxian Taoist Palace, Lin Yi was filled with thoughts. Back then, my predecessor knelt here for 3 days and suffered humiliation. However, due to his low-grade spiritual roots, he was rejected by the Tianxian Taoist Palace. And he was often ridiculed. Although he is my predecessor, I have inherited his body. If I help him fulfill his wishes appropriately, my thoughts will become more clear. This incident left a deep impression on the previous incarnation's memory. After Lin Yi traveled through time, he inherited the memory of his previous incarnation, so it also had an impact on him. The scene of kneeling at the mountain gate and suffering humiliation is still vivid in my mind, as if it happened just yesterday. The feeling of being laughed at is still fresh in my memory. Originally, Lin Yi didn't intend to get involved in this matter. What did the insults suffered by his predecessor have to do with him? However, the feud between himself and Tianxian Taoist Palace appeared again and again in the simulation, so he had to deal with it. Because spiritual practice lies in the enlightenment of one thought. If you keep this matter in your heart for a long time, it will breed inner demons. This will be a great obstacle to future practice. He now holds the Fire Phoenix sword of Tianxian Taoist Palace, and his strength is far greater than before. Returning to this place that once brought endless humiliation to my predecessor, I feel mixed emotions. The sword in his hand now gave Lin Yi an idea suddenly. He wanted to take this opportunity to explore the secrets of Tianxian Taoist Palace and perhaps find the secret of ascension. Tianxian Taoist Palace has been able to exist for so long, and even though it is now in decline, it might know some secrets. What Lin Yi urgently wants to know now, besides the matter of ascension, is the whereabouts of another person. This person is Dan Yangzi, who appeared in the simulation. Lin Yi feels that he is not simple. Although Fatda was sent to build up the hidden power, it would take time. As for the Tianxian Taoist Palace, this force was once the most powerful one and must know a lot of things. Lin Yi did not hide at all and flew directly to the sky above the Tianxian Taoist Palace. He lowered his head and looked down at the palace complex below, with a hint of disdain on his face. He knew that what he did was not a good thing. Normally, any cultivator would fly around other people's sects. If you are visiting, you will land early and walk to the mountain gate. Flying above other people's sects and overlooking them is a very unfriendly behavior. This kind of situation would not happen unless someone comes to your door directly with malicious intent. Tianxian Taoist Palace reacted quickly, and soon 2 Jindan stage ancestors flew into the sky. They were dressed in Taoist robes, their faces were solemn, and they looked at Lin Yi vigilantly. Many of the disciples below also looked up into the sky in confusion, discussing and guessing the identity and purpose of this uninvited guest. One of the disciples asked in confusion, why did the elders fly up there? Someone nearby said, "Are you blind? Don't you see there's another person in the air?" What? When these words were spoken, countless people were shocked. Because this situation is really rare, but it is followed by endless anger and rage. A short and fat disciple, with an exaggerated flying sword hanging on his waist, cursed at the top of his voice. "Humph, you really don't know how to live or die. We have a yuaning old monster in charge of Tianxian Dao Palace. Who dares to come here and act so presumptuously?" Countless disciples were extremely angry because this was a provocation to them. But more disciples looked up into the sky curiously, wanting to see the figure in the sky clearly. Chapter 76 Sword Slashing Tianxian Dao Palace. "Get off me!" A voice came from the crowd, full of anger. Faced with the Tianxian Dao Palace disciples who were as small as ants, Lin Yi naturally ignored them. He looked at the 2 elders of Tianxian Taoist Palace who were standing not far from him. One is in the middle stage of Jindan, and the other is in the late stage of Jindan. If it were in the past, facing these 2 people would be like looking up at a mountain. But now, the other party is really nothing in his eyes. The 2 elders of Tianxian Dao Palace who flew up angrily also stopped their anger after seeing Lin Yi. Because they find that they cannot see through the person in front of them. When this happens, either the other party is just an ordinary person who has no cultivation and no spiritual power fluctuations. There is also another kind of realm that is higher than oneself. If the other party can fly over the sky of his sect, then he definitely cannot be an ordinary person. That is the second type, the opponent is stronger than you. The 2 elders exchanged glances and saw a solemn look in each other's eyes. The elder in the middle stage of Jindan took a step forward and bowed to Lin Yi and said, "My fellow Taoist, what brings you to my Tianxian Taoist Palace?" Although his tone was polite, he was secretly on guard and ready to take action at any time. Lin Yi said nonchalantly, "Let your 3 nascent soul ancestors come out, you are not worthy to talk to me." Hearing Lin Yi's words, one of the hot-tempered elders flew into a rage and immediately scolded. "How arrogant! Who am I, the ancestor of Tianxian Dao Palace? How can you meet me just because you want to?" After hearing this, Lin Yi frowned and said impatiently, "What a noise!" After saying that, he waved his sleeves casually and a stream of sword energy shot out. The late Jindan elder who had just scolded Lin Yi fell from the sky in an instant. Bang! With a dull sound, the late Jindan elder fell heavily on the square of Tianxian Taoist Palace. This attack instantly shocked the entire Tianxian Taoist Palace. "Elder of Law!" A disciple shouted in grief and anger, and this shout immediately made all the disciples in the palace fall into shock and fear. The elder in charge of laws has a very high prestige in the Tianxian Taoist Palace. He is in charge of the sect's laws. He does have a hot temper, but his cultivation is unfathomable. He is an existence respected and feared by many disciples. However, now, he was shot down from a high altitude by an outsider and his life or death is uncertain. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The disciples were thrown into chaos in an instant, and amid panicked shouts, elders and disciples rushed over from all directions. In the blink of an eye, colorful lights intertwined in the sky, and the scene was in chaos. Sniff sniff! Countless figures rose into the air, their faces serious and their bodies emitting powerful spiritual energy fluctuations. The elders drew their swords, their eyes gleaming with ferocity, and locked their eyes on Lin Yi. How dare you break into my Tianxiandao palace? One of the older elders said in a cold voice, staring at Lin Yi with lightning eyes, and the atmosphere in the room suddenly became extremely tense. Lin Yi stood calmly in the air with a cold expression. Facing the large number of elders and disciples surrounding him, he showed no fear at all, and a breathtaking pressure surrounded him. At this moment, he was like a king high above, overlooking everything in front of him. One after another, spiritual weapons and magic treasures attacked Lin Yi, and the sky was full of colorful lights. The dazzling light of the magic weapons made the entire Tianxian Taoist palace colorful. Lin Yi smiled slightly. He didn't take the dozen or so Jindan stage cultivators in front of him seriously at all. Good job! He whispered softly, and the flying sword in his hand was like a dragon emerging from the sea, instantly turning 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and soon Lin Yi was surrounded by sword shadows, like silver snakes dancing wildly, cutting countless silver tracks in the sky. This is his unique skill, the differentiation of sword light, which comes from the 10,000 swords technique. The 10,000 swords technique has several stages. The first stage is the differentiation of sword light, which can transform one sword into 2, 4, 10, or even more. The second stage is to transform the sword energy into silk, and control the sword energy like silk threads. The third stage is to transform the sword energy into rain, and sprinkle the sword light like rain. No one within 1,000 miles can defeat it. At present, Lin Yi is still unable to turn sword energy into rain, but his sword light differentiation has reached perfection. The master Wangjian in the tradition should be able to achieve the level of sword light turning into rain, Lin Yi thought to himself. The dozen or so Jindan elders in front of them saw Lin Yi use the sword light to split in an instant, and they all screamed in fear. Sword cultivator! Retreat! Not good! Everyone was very discerning, and no one was willing to fight with a sword cultivator of unknown strength, because sword cultivators were born killers and there were few rivals at the same level. More than a dozen Jindan stage elders of Tianxian Taoist Palace found that the situation was not good, but due to the gap in their realms, they had nowhere to escape. Lin Yi's sword shadows came like a storm, knocking down these elders one by one. Dull sounds were heard from the sky, and more than a dozen elders fell from the air, some of them falling heavily on the square. Some even smashed through the roof. When the disciples saw this scene, they all looked horrified. Quick, raise the protective formation! An elder shouted urgently. Tianxian Taoist Palace did not dare to delay and instantly raised the protective formation. A layer of transparent light curtain immediately covered the entire palace. However, facing Lin Yi's powerful pressure, the disciples were still filled with panic and despair. Lin Yi hovered in the air, with a stern expression and eyes as fast as lightning, overlooking the entire Tianxian Taoist Palace, as if he held the power to decide their life and death. Immediately afterwards, Tianxian Taoist Palace sent people to invite out the 3 nascent soul stage ancestors. As the 3 Yuanying monsters appeared, a burst of enthusiastic cheers broke out in the Tianxian Taoist Palace. Because this is their pillar of support. The 3 old monsters who are at the nascent soul stage, looking around the world, if they don't reach the spiritual transformation stage, who dares to compete with them? The 3 Yuanying stage monsters walked towards the sky step by step, strolling in the clouds as easily as they walked on the earth. After a while, 3 Yuanying old monsters stood in front of Lin Yi. My fellow Taoist, I am Xianming Genren, and the 2 beside me are Xuanyun Genren and Xuanyun Genren. Master Xianming smiled elegantly, but his voice revealed an invisible pressure. Lin Yi smiled faintly, unmoved, and replied calmly. An old friend once entrusted me with the task. If Tianxiandao Palace still has something to offer, I will take care of it. If Tianxiandao Palace deviates from its original purpose, there is no need for it to exist. I will personally disband this force. Lin Yi's voice was not loud, but everyone present could hear it clearly. For a moment, the whole place was silent, and everyone's eyes were focused on the mysterious Lin Yi. Master Xianming narrowed his eyes slightly, and although he had a smile on his face, his eyes were extremely sharp. My fellow Taoist, I wonder what deep hatred you have with my Tianxian Taoist palace that you would say such outrageous words. Lin Yi pondered for a moment and said slowly. A few years ago, I heard that Tianxian Dao Palace had fallen into such a state, and I couldn't bear it, so I hid my state and came here to test it out. I didn't expect that everyone in Tianxian Taoist Palace was so arrogant that they refused me admission and even mocked me in their words. Therefore, I came here today to fulfill my promise and personally eliminate this arrogant and overconfident force. Chapter 77, Coward. Facing Lin Yi's words. Xianming, Xuanyan, and Xuanyun, 3 Yuanying stage-old monsters of Tianxian Taoist Palace, all frowned. Xuanyun Zhenren sneered and said, "You bold lunatic, do you really think that you can shake my Tianxian Dao Palace by yourself?" Xianyan Zhenren's face was grim, with a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. "Since you are determined to die, we will send you off." The aura of the 3 people suddenly surged, the sky seemed to tremble with their anger, and the pressure of the nascent soul stage swept across the entire place. Lin Yi showed no sign of weakness, with sword shadows surrounding him in an imposing manner. Lin Yi's mouth corners raised. "Okay, let me see what my old friend's sect is capable of." After saying that, the fire phoenix sword in his hand let out a clear phoenix cry, soared into the sky, and after circling in the air, it turned into a huge flaming phoenix, swooping down with the momentum of burning the sky and destroying the earth. As the wings of the flame phoenix flapped, waves of heat were created, as if they were going to reduce the entire Tianxian Taoist palace to ashes. "Well, you came. Let the 3 of us brothers come and learn from you, fellow Taoist," Xianming Zhenren said in a deep voice. The 3 of them each brought out their magic weapons. The one from Xianming was a jade ruyi, the one from Xuanyun was a whisk, and the one from Xuanyan was an ancient bronze mirror. The 3 of them coordinated well in attack and defense, and their magic weapons echoed each other, actually combining into an exquisite combo. Yu Ruyi focuses on attacking with fierce and unpredictable moves. The whisk is used for defense, and it forms indestructible barriers when it is waved. The bronze mirror shot out rays of lightning and fire, which kept attacking Lin Yi like a thorn in his flesh. With this set of combos, the attacker is able to take both offense and defense and advance and retreat with precision. Not to mention the late nascent soul stage, even the peak nascent soul stage would be defeated. Even if an ordinary divine cultivator comes, he can resist 1 or 2. But Lin Yi is a sword cultivator, and his attack power is far beyond their imagination. In the simulation, he had already defeated 3 nascent soul demons sent by the Ghost Spirit sect. At that time, he was still in the late stage of Sword Infant. But now he has reached the peak of Sword Infant, and his strength is no longer what it used to be. The fire phoenix sword in his hand shone brightly, and a huge sword light cut through the sky, like the Milky Way pouring down from the sky, instantly breaking up the combination of the 3 people. Wherever the sword light passed, the space seemed to be torn apart. The 3 of them groaned and took a few steps back. Their faces turned pale in an instant and a trace of blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. They looked at each other in disbelief, their eyes filled with shock and fear. Lin Yi in front of them made them feel deeply powerless. They had a tacit understanding with each other and had never met an opponent in hundreds of years. There will be no this inserted audio clip if you buy the software license key or activation key. Today, the 3 of them joined forces and used all their skills, but they were defeated in one move before they could even find out the opponent's specific strength. In an instant, the 3 of them made a decision at the same time: escape. Relying on the sex protective formation that can resist the divine transformation cultivators, there may still be a glimmer of hope. They did not dare to stay any longer and instantly entered the Tianxian Taoist Palace. At the same time, they issued orders for the sect to quickly reinforce the formation. As the three Yuanying monsters were beaten and vomited blood, the disciples of Tianqian Taoist Palace suddenly fell into chaos. Like a nest of ants that has exploded, they fled in panic, crying and cursing. For many years, they have relied on the former glory of Tianqian Taoist Palace. Even though it is now in decline and only 3 nascent soul ancestors are left to support the palace, they are still arrogant and look down on others. He even walked with his nose up in the air, as if he was still a disciple of a super sect standing at the top of the world of immortal cultivation. But today, Lin Yi, with 3 swords, completely shattered their self-confidence that they were so proud of. Lin Yi watched the 3 Yuanying stage ancestors fleeing back to Tianqian Dao Palace in a panic, and the light of the mountain protection formation also increased a bit, like a huge turtle shell, covering the entire sect. How could he not understand that the other party was planning to be a coward and fight to the last? Lin Yi looked at the colorful protective shield under his feet, a mocking arc appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he sneered. I thought the Tianqian Dao Palace was quite courageous, but I didn't expect it to become a coward now. Do you think you can stop me with just this formation? It's ridiculous. Upon hearing this, Master Xuanyan, who was hiding in the formation, became furious. His hair and beard stood on end, his old teeth chattered, and he retorted loudly. You arrogant fellow! Don't you see where this is? This is the mountain protection formation that our Tianqian Dao Palace's ancestor Yungziao built 100,000 years ago. Even a divine transformation cultivator would find it difficult to break through. Do you think you can break through the formation? You are dreaming. Ancestor Yungziao. When Lin Yi heard the name, he felt something was wrong and thought it sounded familiar. He subconsciously stroked the fire phoenix sword in his hand, and the sword felt warm to the touch. He suddenly remembered that the original owner of this magic sword seemed to be called King Yungziao. He couldn't help but wonder secretly, what is the relationship between King Yungziao and that Yungziao patriarch? If what Xuanyan said is true, then Patriarch Yungziao was only a person who lived 100,000 years ago, while Tianqian Taoist Palace has existed for millions of years. He couldn't tell exactly which era King Yungziao was from. However, judging from the place where the Fire Phoenix sword was originally found, and the degree of weathering of the storage ring and other items, King Yungziao is definitely much older than ancestor Yungziao. Lin Yi couldn't figure this out and was too lazy to think about it. We'll break in later and capture them one by one and interrogate them, and we should be able to get the answers. Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt it necessary to teach Tianqian Dao Palace a profound lesson. If you want to conquer someone, you have to scare them so much that they dare not resist. Then, his mind moved, and he directly drew out a stream of inherited sword energy. It's not that he doesn't cherish it, but since he obtained these 3 sword energies, he has never directly comprehended them in reality. Although it has been used in simulation, it is still a simulation after all. Even if he uses one now, he still has 2. Besides, if he guessed correctly, there might be 3 more sword energies waiting for him to find in reality. As he drew out a stream of sword energy, the originally clear sky suddenly became overcast with dark clouds. The thick clouds rolled over, like ink splashed on the sky, covering the sun. Above the Tianqian Taoist Palace, the wind was howling, sand and rocks were flying, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth became violent. All the disciples of Tianqian Taoist Palace felt an inexplicable fear, a fear from the bottom of their hearts that made them tremble. Above their heads, in the dark clouds, a giant sword 10,000 meters long slowly condensed into shape. The giant sword radiated dazzling white light, and mysterious runes flowed on the sword. A destructive aura spread out, as if it was going to tear the entire world apart. There is no need to doubt the power of this sword. What they are worried about now is whether the protective shield above their heads can block the power of this sword. Chapter 78, A Sword Opens the Sky. Xianming Zhenren and 3 other nascent soul monsters who were hiding in the mountain protection formation also felt the terrifying power of this sword. Their expressions became extremely solemn, and their eyes were filled with horror and despair. They knew that this sword was enough to destroy everything. Master Xuanyan waved his hands dejectedly, as if all the strength had been drained out of him. He slumped down in the chair, muttering to himself. Forget it, forget it. Heaven wants to destroy our Tianxian Dao Palace. This kind of power is the top existence among the nascent soul and the God transformation, let alone the nascent soul. How can we stop it? His originally rosy face turned grey at this moment, and the light in his eyes dimmed, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. The other two nascent soul ancestors also looked ashen, and Xianming Zhenren sat on the ground dejectedly, staring blankly ahead, repeating himself over and over again. It's over. It's all over. In the square, the Jindan stage elders who were already seriously injured in the previous battle were now like deflated balls, limp on the ground. Their eyes were dull, they no longer had the courage to resist and were just waiting for the judgment of fate. Deathly silence and despair permeated every corner of the square. After a long time, Master Xuanyan seemed to have finally made up his mind. He used all his strength and spoke in a trembling voice. Open the formation. We can't stop this sword. His voice echoed in the hall, carrying a hint of sadness and helplessness, and also announced the final fate of Tianxian Taoist Palace. Following Xuanyan Zhenren's order, the protective formation covering the sky above Tianxian Dao Palace slowly opened. It is like a huge cage, which delivers the prey imprisoned in it to the hunter. At this moment, Lin Yi, who was immersed in the power of sword energy, was also confused by the protective shield that suddenly opened below. He originally intended to use the power of this sword to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Give Tianxian Taoist Palace a warning and try out the power of the inherited sword energy in his hand. What's going on? Why did it suddenly open? Are you scared? Lin Yi was confused, but he did not stop moving his hands because he had already felt the power of this force. It was so powerful that he had an illusion that the sky could be split in half with a single sword. So, this is the power of a sword cultivator. Lin Yi was shocked, and it seemed that everything he saw could be cut down with one sword. This feeling of being in control of everything and being the only one in the world made him intoxicated and unable to extricate himself. Lin Yi gained a lot. If he could comprehend it a few more times and have such feelings a few more times, he would be able to break through to the level of spirit transformation. Moreover, he is a sword cultivator who has reached the divine level. By then, he will also have this power. Looking at the Tianxian Taoist Palace with the formation opened below, Lin Yi couldn't help but frowned, feeling confused. This sudden action left him a little confused. He originally planned to use the power of this sword to kill the chicken to scare the monkey and give the Tianxian Taoist Palace a warning. I also wanted to try out the power of the inherited sword energy in my hand, but I didn't really want to kill them all. Now that the formation was wide open, it seemed as if he had voluntarily given up resistance and surrendered, which forced him to change his original plan of giving him a light punishment and a severe warning. But now the sword has been formed, just like an arrow that has been shot, how can it be retrieved? This sword energy contains the power to destroy the world. Once released, it will be like a wild horse that has broken free from its reins and will be difficult to control. If you take it back forcibly, it might backfire on you and the loss would outweigh the gain. Well, let's give Tianxian Taoist Palace an unforgettable memory today, so that they will never dare to have second thoughts again. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's eyes fixed, and a hint of determination flashed in his eyes. He looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and the fire phoenix sword in his hand made a crisp sound, as if responding to its master's determination. Immediately, a huge phantom of a fire phoenix rose into the sky from the sword. The fire phoenix spread its wings, covering the sky and the sun, burning with raging flames, distorting the surrounding air. This fire phoenix is not a physical entity, but is condensed from pure sword energy, containing the cultivation and will of Lin Yi's sword. Whoosh! The fire phoenix let out a sharp cry, like a red lightning, cutting through the void and rushing straight into the sky. Boom! With a deafening bang, the fire phoenix crashed into the sky, bursting out with dazzling light, like the blazing sun, illuminating the entire world. The originally gloomy sky was torn open by the sword, revealing a huge hole in the sky, revealing a chaotic void. For a moment, the sky was filled with raging thunder, like the Milky Way hanging upside down, pouring down, as if doomsday had come. When the people of Tianxian Taoist Palace saw this scene, they were instantly scared to death. The power of this sword is more terrifying and horrifying than before. Xianming Zhenren and the 3 Yuanying old monsters were stunned. They originally thought that the other party would directly attack the mountain protection formation. However, he did not expect that the opponent would actually direct the power of This sword towards the sky. At this moment, they understood it instantly. It was obvious that the people in the sky did not want to commit more murders. So this sword was used to directly split the sky. Firstly, it was to tell himself and others that under this sword, the protective shield on which he and others relied for survival became a joke. It's as fragile as paper and can withstand a single blow. Secondly, it is to show strength, prove that it is not bluffing, and make Tianxian Taoist Palace completely surrender. Horrible! It's horrible! When Lin Yi saw the power of this sword, his pupils shrank slightly, and a storm surged in his heart. Even though he had already seen this devastating sword in the simulator. Seeing it with my own eyes at this moment, I still feel shocked. No wonder, in the simulation, I was able to scare off the ghost spirit sect's great elder with one sword, Lin Yi murmured to himself, with the complicated light flashing in his eyes. Although he could control this power in the simulator, there was always a thin film between him and him, so he couldn't truly experience the mystery of it. Now that he was there in person, he truly felt the terrifying power of this inherited sword energy. At this moment, the sky was changing color and thunder was rumbling. Thick bolts of lightning danced wildly like silver snakes, tearing the already gloomy sky into countless pieces. This is not an ordinary thunderstorm, but a warning from the heavens. Lin Yi realized in his heart that the power of this sword had reached the limit of what this world could bear. The thunder sent down from heaven is both a warning and a form of balance. Fortunately, he is only in the nascent soul stage now. If it were at the spiritual transformation stage, this sword would be enough to create the heaven and earth, and open up a passage leading to ascension. At that time, he will face an even more terrifying natural disaster. Overcoming the tribulation and ascending to heaven, or death and extinction, all depend on a thin line. Lin Yi's gaze penetrated the heavy thunder and fell on the Tianxian Dao Palace. The once magnificent square was now in ruins. The mountain protection formation was no longer there, revealing the trembling people inside. Chapter 79 This is our sect's sacred object. The 3 Yuanying old monsters looked ashen. They had never imagined that there was such a terrifying power in the world. As for the disciples, they were already frightened out of their wits and collapsed to the ground, trembling. Lin Yi took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in his heart. He was not a bloodthirsty person. This sword was only meant to shock the Tianxian Taoist Palace, not to kill them all. The disciples of Tianxian Taoist Palace below were all silent as they looked at this terrifying divine power. What's worse, some people just collapsed to the ground, with feces and urine flowing out, and a foul smell filled the air. Master Xuanyan looked at the fire phoenix sword flying around in the thunder, and a puzzled look appeared on his face. Senior brothers, why does this sword look familiar to me? Hearing this, Master Xianming and Master Xuanyan also looked towards the fire phoenix sword. They narrowed their eyes, carefully identifying the sword that appeared and disappeared in the lightning, the patterns on the sword, and the unique phoenix-shaped hilt. After a while, Master Xuanyan's expression suddenly changed. Brother and brother, if I remember correctly, it seems to be the fire phoenix sword of ancestor Yungziao. There was a hint of disbelief and even a hint of trembling in his tone. Taoist Xianming also frowned, and looked at the sword for a long time. His expression gradually became solemn, and then he said, It's not like, it's that sword. I didn't expect that after 100,000 years, I could still see our sect's sacred object. There was a hint of excitement, a hint of emotion, and a hint of deep fear in his tone. The three of them looked at the fire phoenix sword flying back and forth in the air, as if they were on a pilgrimage, with expressions of wonder and awe. They seemed to see the scene 10,000 years ago when the ancestor Yungxiao was holding the fire phoenix sword, dominating the world and slaying demons and monsters. The fire phoenix sword danced for a while, as if it had had enough fun, and returned to Lin Yi's side, making a happy sword sound, like a child returning to its mother's arms. The thunder around the sword also dissipated. Lin Yi felt that after performing this sword exercise just now, the fire phoenix sword was baptized by thunder again, and now it has reached the level of a mid-grade magic weapon. An even more powerful force came from the sword, making him feel extremely excited. At this time, Lin Yi already knew that the reason why the sword dropped in grade was because it was madly absorbing spiritual energy in that world. This time, seeing the light of day again, it absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and bathed in thunder, and its grade was naturally upgraded. Very good. Lin Yi was secretly delighted. I was originally thinking about how to repair it, but now it seems to be simple. If it is baptized by thunder a few more times, wouldn't it be? Lin Yi put the fire phoenix sword back into his dantian, and a warm breath instantly flowed through his body, as if a long drought had finally ended, and he felt indescribably comfortable. He slowly landed on the square of Tianxian Taoist Palace, his clothes fluttering, like a banished immortal. Wherever his eyes swept, countless disciples lowered their heads, not daring to look him in the eye, not even daring to breathe. The blue stone bricks in the square were already covered with cracks under the pressure of the previous sword, spreading like a spider web, adding a bit of solemn and murderous atmosphere. The three ancestors Xianming, Xuanyun, and Xuanyan stepped forward and bowed deeply to Lin Yi with an extremely respectful attitude. "Senior, you have come, but we failed to greet you from afar and even drew swords against you. This is really wrong. Please punish me, Senior." Their voices trembled slightly, with a hint of fear that was hard to conceal. Previously he addressed me as fellow Taoist, but now he respectfully changed his address to Senior. The rapid change in attitude was shocking. Lin Yi looked at the three people who lowered their eyebrows and smiled imperceptibly, and looked around again. As his gaze moved, all the disciples of Tianxian Taoist Palace lowered their heads deeply, their bodies trembling slightly, like lambs to be slaughtered. The square was silent, with only a few low sobs occasionally echoing in the air. This is the respect for the absolutely strong. The law of the jungle is the eternal law in the world of immortal cultivation. Tianxian Taoist Palace has always been high-handed and has a transcendent status in the world of immortal cultivation. Its disciples are all dressed in white, handsome and extraordinary, and are respected wherever they go. Just like the key universities in the previous life, it makes people yearn for it. Lin Yi had also longed to join the Tianxian Taoist Palace, but was rejected due to insufficient qualifications. This had become a thorn in his side for many years, an obsession that was difficult to let go. Now, he has returned as a strong man, and with one sword, he makes the entire Tianxian Taoist Palace tremble. The once unattainable holy land of immortals now lies at his feet. This feeling made him feel indescribably comfortable, and years of obsession disappeared. Looking at the three yuanying old monsters in front of him, Lin Yi had a playful look in his eyes and spoke after a long while. "I should have disbanded your Tianxian Dao Palace. You are arrogant and bully others. Your crime is unforgivable. However, God is merciful, and I don't want to commit too many sins of killing." He paused, and glanced at the three people with a sharp gaze. "If you can repent and change your ways, you are not hopeless." Upon hearing this, Xianming, Xuanyun and Xuanyan felt as if they had been pardoned and quickly agreed, with cold sweat dripping down their foreheads. Their previous arrogance had long since disappeared. They dared not even breathe, for fear of angering this unfathomable master. Then, Xianming cautiously tested it. "Excuse me, Senior, the astonishing flying sword just now, is it the legendary Fire Phoenix sword?" There was a hint of trembling in his tone, a hint of anticipation, and even a hint of awe that was difficult to conceal. Lin Yi was delighted. He didn't expect that the people in Tianxian Taoist Palace still remembered this sword. He came here for two reasons: firstly to fulfill his long-cherished wish that had been denied him that year, and secondly to explore Kang Yongxiao's past. It is crucial to know which era the other party belongs to and when he ascended to heaven. If Lin Yi wants to ascend successfully, he must understand that world, because this world will reach its limit sooner or later, and if he does not ascend, he can only sit and wait for death. If one wants to ascend, the predicament of the land of absolute spirits must be resolved, otherwise he will follow in Kang Yongxiao's footsteps and die. Thinking of this, Lin Yi pretended to sigh nonchalantly. "I didn't expect that after such a long time, you still remember this magic sword. It's really rare." There was a hint of sigh and emotion in his tone, which perfectly portrayed the image of a reclusive master. Xianming Zhenren quickly replied respectfully, "Senior, you are joking. Our holy relic has reappeared in the world. How can everyone in Tianxian Dao Palace not know about it? I just don't know what the relationship between you and Patriarch Yongxiao is." He chose his words carefully, fearing to offend Lin Yi. Lin Yi's heart moved. He didn't know who this Yongxiao ancestor was, but he thought it might be Kang Yongxiao. In order to avoid being exposed, he had to continue pretending. He paused for a moment, pretending to be profound, his eyes vague, as if he was lost in distant memories, and then he slowly opened his mouth. "You are talking about Kang Yongxiao, right?" Chapter 080. Please stay. Xianming, Xuanyun and Xuanyan hurriedly bowed and said in unison, "It is the old man Yongxiao." They were extremely shocked. They didn't expect that the senior in front of them actually knew the real name of ancestor Yongxiao. This ancestor lived 100,000 years ago. Could it be that the person in front of me is an old monster who has lived for 100,000 years? But how is this possible? Even the top-notch incarnation gods have a lifespan that is only twice that of ordinary incarnation gods. At most, only 4,000 or 5,000 years. Compared with 100,000 years, this is a world of difference. The three of them had different thoughts in their minds. They secretly looked at Lin Yi, trying to find some clues from him. Lin Yi was wearing a simple green Taoist robe, with a handsome face and a noble temperament. He didn't look old at all. He stood with his hands behind his back, his expression indifferent, as if nothing in the world could cause him the slightest ripple. Lin Yi noticed the gazes of the three people, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a meaningful smile. He stretched out his right hand, and the Fire Phoenix sword appeared in his hand again. He slowly stroked the sword and spoke indifferently. "Kang Yongxiao failed in his ascension and has died." "What? How is this possible?" "No." When Xianming, Xuanyun and Xuanyan heard this, their faces changed suddenly as if they were struck by lightning. They couldn't believe their ears. Patriarch Yongxiao was a legendary figure in the Tianxian Taoist Palace. He was extremely talented and unrivaled in ancient and modern times. How could he fail to ascend to heaven? This is simply a fantasy. Xianming Zhenren shook his head and said seriously, "According to the historical records of our sect, ancestor Yun Xiao ascended to heaven 100,000 years ago and was successful." He stroked his graying beard, his eyes gleaming with an unquestionable light. Master Xuanyun beside him also echoed, "That's right. There is no historical record of his failure. Moreover, the classics also record that at that time, there was a brilliant glow and auspicious signs from the sky. All signs indicate that the ancestor succeeded in ascending." Xianyan Zhenren added, "He ascended in front of the entire Tianxian Dao Palace. How could this be fake?" He frowned slightly, seeming puzzled by what Lin Yi said. 100,000 years. Lin Yi whispered to himself and caught a key message. Judging from the situation, it should have been 100,000 years since Kang Yongxiao ascended to heaven. However, judging from the degree of corruption of the storage ring at that time, it is almost 1,000,000 years old. What is so strange about this? Suddenly, Lin Yi had a flash of inspiration and a bold guess came to his mind. It was true that Kang Yongxiao ascended to heaven 100,000 years ago, but I must have miscalculated the time of decay of the storage ring. That world is a place without any spiritual energy, and any object will have its spiritual energy absorbed. Without spiritual power to maintain it, the speed of decay will increase greatly. Therefore, just 100,000 years is enough for a storage ring to completely decay. Thinking of this, Lin Yi sighed and said, pretending to be sad. Alas, Kang Yongxiao did ascend, but he still failed in the end. There was a hint of regret and melancholy in his tone, as if he had witnessed Kang Yongxiao's fall with his own eyes. After these words were spoken, Xianming, Xuanyun and Xuanyan became even more confused. Why do you fail when you succeed? What is the hidden story behind this? The three of them looked at each other, and Xianming Zhenren stepped forward and asked respectfully, "Please enlighten me, senior." There was a hint of urgency and anticipation in his tone, a desire to solve the mystery. Lin Yi looked up at the sky and said slowly, "You are not strong enough, so it is useless to listen. This sword is the proof. If he really succeeded in ascending, how could his sword fall into my hands?" He glanced at the three people and asked slowly, "How much do you know about ascension?" The three of them looked at each other and shook their heads. Xianyan Zhenren hesitated for a moment and said, "According to the records of our sect, in the past 100,000 years, no one from Tianxiandao Palace has been able to ascend except for Patriarch Yongxiao." Lin Yi sighed softly, "It's better not to ascend. If I ascend, I will be more desperate." The three of them became even more confused after hearing this. "I just feel that Lin Yi is unfathomable, as if he knows many secrets, but is very secretive about them." Xianming Zhenren asked tentatively, "Senior, would you be willing to stay in my Tianxiandao Palace for a while? That would allow us to show our respect to you." The other two also looked at Lin Yi with eager eyes, full of expectation. Lin Yi's strength was far beyond their imagination. The Tianxian Taoist Palace has not produced a deity for thousands of years. Although it still has the reputation of a top sect, it does not have enough foundation to intimidate the villains. This matter has always been a major concern for Xianming, Xuanyun, and Xuanyan. Now Lin Yi suddenly came with the Fire Phoenix sword, the sword of the Yongxiao ancestor of the Tianxian Taoist Palace 100,000 years ago. From the perspective of Tianxiandao Palace, Lin Yi in front of them must have a deep connection with Tianxiandao Palace. The Fire Phoenix sword is the personal sword of ancestor Yongxiao and he never leaves it. But now it appears in Lin Yi's hands. The meaning is self-evident. The three of them had mixed feelings in their minds, but they didn't dare to ask easily. Therefore, as long as Lin Yi is kept, Tianxiandao Palace will definitely have one more top combat force. Although they sensed the fluctuations of spiritual energy around Lin Yi, it seemed that he was only at the nascent soul stage. But just now, Lin Yi was able to split the sky apart with a casual sword, which was clearly a magical power that only a great god could display. The blazing light of that sword is still deeply engraved in their minds and cannot be erased. The three of them looked at each other and saw the same expectation in each other's eyes. Thinking of this, Xianyan and Xianyun also hurriedly said, "Yes, senior, you must stay and let us show our filial piety." They spoke sincerely and with a respectful attitude, fearing that Lin Yi would refuse. After listening to this, Lin Yi couldn't help but want to laugh. He thought to himself that he was not even older than these people's disciples, but these three people were rushing to show their respect to him. However, this doesn't seem to be a bad thing. Thinking of this, Lin Yi pretended to sigh and said quietly, "Alas, my old friend is no longer with us. Seeing Tianxiandao Palace in such a state, I can't bear it." There was a hint of sadness and regret in his tone, as if he was reminiscing about an old friend. Xian Yin immediately patted his chest and assured, with the senior here, how can my Tianxian Dao Palace fall into decline? Within 3 to 5 years, it will surely rise again. His tone was firm and full of confidence, as if he had already seen the glorious future of Tianxian Taoist Palace. Lin Yi shook his head and said, "What you said sounds good, but now all the disciples of Tianxian Dao Palace are arrogant and have lost their original spirit and original intention. Back then, I disguised myself and came to become his disciple, but was not only turned away, but also humiliated in every way." As soon as these words were spoken, Xian Mingzhenren and the other two immediately turned their gazes like knives towards the trembling disciples behind the M. In the crowd, an old man with grey hair and a slightly hunched back suddenly trembled all over and his face turned pale in an instant. This old man was the elder in charge of law of Tianxian Taoist Palace. He was usually in charge of the sex rules and punishments. But at this moment, he froze in place as if he had been struck by lightning.